All right. Good day, everyone, and welcome to the third installment of the Black Game Pro Mixer. This one also happens to be our first digital event. And because it's digital, we have everyone joining us today from all across the world. And I'm so grateful everyone's here today. So off the rip, my name is Kurston Timothy, aka Kayvon Doom on your local internet. I'm going to be your host for this event. And I'm coming to you live from the Ubisoft studio here in Toronto. So let's get into it. The Black Game Pro Initiative was created to uplift and foster the many Black talents within the gaming industry. Now I might be asking, okay, what is a Black Game Pro? The simple answer is just that, a Black gaming professional. But to understand that, you'll need to know the many roles that we occupy. So we are community managers, development testers, model artists, tech designers, account managers, creative directors, and so much more. Our panelists today span a very wide range of roles from a number of different industries. Some of those companies include the Entertainment Software Association, we like to call it the ESA, Microsoft, Sony Interactive Entertainment, and as well as many Ubisoft studios from across the world. Today, people are going to be sharing their come-up stories. Everybody has one, and everyone's story is a little bit unique to its own. Let's start from me, for example. So I went to school here in Toronto at a college called George Brown College. So I went to George Brown for about 2 years. And during this time, I had to leave after my second year due to some unforeseen issues. So after I left, I decided, you know what? My journey doesn't stop here. I will become a game developer. I just have to figure it out. And then one day in 2017, I figured it out. So let's talk about that day. Let's go to the spring of 2017. So after many different opportunities I had to apply for different jobs, I got many different rejections. But in 2017, I finally landed this interview. Also thanks to one of my good friends who happened to work here at the time, so I kind of had a little bit of an edge. Leading up to this interview, I was nervous as hell, which is weird for me because I interview very well, and I'm a people person, so talking to people has never been an issue for me, but I knew that the weight of this particular interview was just so much more important than anything I've done in my life because I was that much closer to obtaining my dream job, game developer. So one thing about me, like I mentioned, I didn't finish school. So going to the interview, I need to make sure that I proved myself that A, I know my skills, I know what the job takes, and B, all because I was a college dropout, it didn't make me less of a candidate for this role. So during my interview, I talked to my interviewers about the many different projects I've done on my own, as well as collaborative projects and different assignments I kind of did just to fine-tune my craft. And the position I was applying for was for a development tester role. We call it Object Bank Dev Tester here in Toronto. And this role deals with 3D modeling. And because in school I focused on 3D art, I knew that if I were to showcase what I learned and what I've been learning on my own, I should have a bit of an edge getting into the interview and finishing it. So now let's talk about the end of the interview now. I thought I bombed it. I thought, all right, I didn't do well. I don't think I talked to enough points I was supposed to. But I'm like, you know what? Leave it to fate. So let's fast forward a year now, 2018, fall time now. I ended up having a conversation with someone who interviewed me just in passing at a Ubisoft event. And I was talking to them like, hey, so about my interview, how did I actually do? This person told me in straight confidence that after the first 5 minutes, they knew they wanted to hire me and I was a good person for this role. I'm just in my head like, wait, so from the beginning, you knew I was good, but you didn't give me an edge or tell me. And I'm just like, you should have just told me, put me at ease. But I think it's safe to say I've done pretty well for myself so far. So in saying that, my journey, a bit unorthodox, but I managed to figure it out and it worked for me. So during today's events, you'll hear our speakers talk about how they got into the industry and how they've grown their careers since. You'll also learn that there's no one straight path to get into the industry. And I hope that from the stories you hear today, you'll be able to carve out your own unique path, whether you're looking to get into the industry or looking to grow within the industry right now. Our goal is to support Black talent at all levels with the Black Game Pros initiative. Like I said before from the beginning, this is our third mixer, our biggest one yet. Today we have 5 people joining us from all across the world, and we're hoping to continue to grow this moving forward. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the start of the event. There's going to be a Q&A at the end of every panel. So whether you're joining us in chat or joining us on our Discord, please enter your questions there, and we're going to try our best to get to all of them, if not most of them, because since there's a lot of us, we will not be able to answer all of them, unfortunately. Now, I'm going to throw it over to Leon. He's going to introduce our first speaker.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. First and foremost, thank you so much for joining. It means a lot to us. Ever since we started the BGP, the Black Game Pros Initiative, over 1 year ago, our main goal was to create a more diverse industry. And this initiative goes beyond just a company that we, Kurston, myself, and some of the speakers here tonight are working for, Ubisoft. We want to see a more representation in the industry as a whole. And we really believe that one of the ways we, as Black professionals in the industry, can contribute to this is by sharing our come-up stories. And with that, put a spotlight on some of the underrepresented job profiles in the industry. Because while programming, coding, content creation are ways into the industry, there are so many other more ways that you can make a career in video games. Now, when we started thinking about what this edition of the Black Game Pro Mixer could look like and speakers we would like to feature, the next speaker was on the top of that list for me. Stanley Pierre-Louis is President and Chief Executive Officer of the Entertainment Software Association, ESA. He's the voice and advocate of the $43.4 billion US game industry. With more than 2 decades of entertainment and media experience, Stan leads ESA public policy efforts to showcase the dynamic impact the video game industry has had on business and entertainment and culture. So he will be speaking in a few minutes. Now that I have a few more minutes to kill as well, I mean, 3 more minutes, that's nice. Just to give you a little bit more of my come-up story. I've been working for Ubisoft for 14 years. 14 years. And before Ubisoft, and the funny story of how I got into Ubisoft and why we think that come-up stories matter is that before Ubisoft, I had my own company producing TV shows, or a TV show for a local channel here in Holland. And I had to do research about hip-hop and R&B because the TV show was about that. And I remember having to read these like hip-hop magazines like Source and Vibe and all these other magazines you had back then. I'm talking 20 years probably ago. And I remember reading an interview with an African-American event manager for Activision Blizzard. I don't know exactly which company it was. It's 20 years ago. Sorry. But the thing is that reading that interview planted the seed in my subconscious mind that, hey, I didn't even know that was a possibility for me to make a career in video games, in events, and do an event like E3, which right now, I mean, I lead the team at Ubisoft responsible for the production of events like E3 or Ubisoft Forward that we just had. So with that in mind, that whole planting a seed in the brains of our community, we started this mixer, or this current mixer that we're doing right now, really focusing on the come-up stories of all these speakers that we have from all over the world, from both Ubisoft as well as people from Sony, Microsoft, and the other companies that Kurston already mentioned. So enough of me talking. I think we're going to give it up for the first speaker, Stanley Pierre-Louis, CEO of the ESA. Stan, take it away.
Thank you. Just making sure you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I'm excited to be with all of you today. I think events like this are critical to adding new voices and perspectives in our industry, but also to help build a pipeline of future leaders, whether you're talking about developers, marketing executives, or even CEOs. So in thinking about how I wanted to share my story, I thought I would organize it by highlighting 3 things that I've learned and relearned and I try to live by. And they're very simple, but I have found over time that they are driving forces and they're a great way to center how I think about how I move forward. The first is to be true to yourself and to who you are. And that really requires a little bit of explanation about my background. My parents came to the United States from Haiti in the 1950s and 60s. And during that time, it was run by a dictator. They lived on dirt floors. They survived on 1 meal a day. And so coming to America was about living that American dream that everyone had been reading about. My mother once told me that she thought that there would be gold on the streets when she got to the United States as we were traveling once together. And it was just interesting to hear about like what her perspective was coming to America. Hearing about her experience and my dad's experiences, their dreams for me and my siblings, and to hear their story just gave me a sense of fearlessness infused with humility and gratitude. And as a consequence, I take nothing for granted. They took nothing for granted, and I take nothing for granted. Not a friendship, not an opportunity. I try to do my thank yous on time. I'm not always good at doing that, but I do get my thank yous out. My parents also believed that education was the way up and the way out, because without that, you were limited in your mobility. And so they encouraged us not only to go to school and learn as much as we can, but to try different things. So we were involved in everything: music, sports, learning languages. We tried everything. And for me, that really opened up the world. I went away to college. I went away to law school. I even spent a year in Europe going to school. I was at the London School of Economics, but then traveled through Europe and met lots of people. And that really changed how I viewed my place in the world and how we fit in. I also got to see how Black people fit into various cultures and societies, and how it was similar to what we were going through the United States, and how it was different in some ways. And that had an impact on me. I also learned that you have to be true to yourself and what you like. So through all of my experiences, let's just talk about music, for example. I love every range of music. I've tried every range of music. I can rock just as hard to Jay-Z as I can to Beethoven, and that's not a joke for the people who know me. If you must know, Tribe is the penultimate group. So if you're a Tribe fan, you have a kindred spirit in me. I think most importantly, it also taught me the sad lesson that my parents taught me, that when you are Black coming up in the US or in other environments, you're going to have more scrutiny, and it's going to be harder in fighting for those opportunities, but you're going to have to. And also in thinking about their example, it taught me that that's your power, that you can use that as a motivating force in realizing that you've got to do your job and be yourself in forging what your path is. And it's been critical in my personal and professional path. I graduated from law school, and there were lots of different ways to go. There's kind of a treadmill as you go through various elements of career choice, right? There's law firms and all these things after law school. But what I found was a lot of the experiences I was having in some of the traditional courses of work left me miserable. They left me unfulfilled. I had all these ambitions of what can you do to add to society? And here I was working on these documents all night. And then there were these opportunities that would just come up, like working with an organization that was trying to help musicians in need of legal assistance, some pro bono work. And I fell into media law, and that really started fueling all of my energy, because I had this background in playing in musical groups and thinking about a musical career at one point. And so being able to channel my energy into something that I was that passionate about made me excited. It often meant leaving one job for less money, but the energy that I got from doing it opened up so many career opportunities that I would have never otherwise gotten just doing the traditional path, because I was doing something I was passionate about, meeting people who were also passionate about the things that we were doing together, and building bonds that I still have today. Literally every job that I've left, I've got a bond with a group of people in each of those environments where we were passionate about what we were doing. All those things actually led to an opportunity, like this, being the CEO of ESA. My background in media law was in film, television, and music. Games really bring all that together, and understanding all those dynamics and how they work was really helpful in me thinking about how to proceed in this opportunity when it came up. And when you meet the people who work in the video game industry, how passionate they are, when you look at the properties that are within the game industry today, all the exciting games. And then as I got to know my colleagues, both at the companies, but then who I was working with at ESA, I was the general counsel there. And so transitioning to the CEO meant I got to work with the people who were passionate about what we were doing every day. And so that's been exciting for me. I think the second lesson I've learned is you get what you give. If you are generous with your time, if you are generous to others, you attract generosity. And if you're stingy, you repel generosity. I am more likely to help someone than to ask for help and to try to make connections. If I'm on a panel, I like to stay afterwards to make sure we're talking to people, because so many people did that for me. They spent the extra time to give me pointers. And if someone's applying for a position, I try to make sure that I can be a reference whenever I can be. I think in doing those things, there's like this ironic thing that happens, which is that you're building up your own reserves in your personal goodwill bank. because things start to happen to you and for you that you couldn't have planned on. I have learned, like afterwards, that almost every major job I've landed came with someone recommending me or talking about me without me even knowing about it, which means that I'm getting private recommendations that I'm not even aware of or didn't plan on. And those nods are more helpful than anything else because they come unsolicited. And that's been one of the things that I've always appreciated in understanding that I didn't make it up on my own. I definitely worked hard and did all the right things, but there are other people along the way saying, hey, he's one of the good guys, help him out. And that, you can't do that for yourself in the same way that someone else can. It's also led me to opportunities that I would have never thought of. I've served on seven boards and a bunch of task forces, and I think almost all of them came from recommendations by other people. One example is that when I moved to New York from Washington, D.C., I moved to work at Viacom. I wanted to get to know the legal community, so I joined various legal groups. And I got to know a lot of different people, including the general counsel of Lincoln Center. She was a tour de force, and she wanted people who loved media law and intellectual property law to get engaged and involved in a lot of these legal organizations. We got to know each other because we were also both former musicians. And as we got to know each other, she was like, you should get involved in some of these other groups, which ultimately led with me working on and joining a board of Lincoln Center, which is a major cultural center in New York City. None of that would have happened if I had applied for it or thinking about doing it. It only happened because I got to know someone in a genuine way. We connected and she saw an opportunity. And so I try to leverage the opportunities I see for people as well, because that's essentially how you create the pipeline, particularly with underrepresented groups. I think the third thing I've learned is you're not alone, even when you feel lonely. And we all feel lonely these days when we're working from home and not being able to connect. In my professional life, I have had very few peers of color. It's very rare for me to walk into a room where I'm in a group of executives or the like, and to have more than one person of color for sure, but it's really rare. And I've been in music, film, television, and now games. And so that's been the experience that I've seen. And I've worked with the people at the highest rungs of many of these organizations. And so I get to see, what's going on. I've also never had a professional mentor. No one's sitting there guiding your career. Instead, I've relied on the great example of my parents, my siblings, and then I married up. And so I have a chief advisor with whom I live and who can help me think through a lot of the issues that I have. But one of the things I've learned is that there are people out there who will champion you and who have your back. And I was at a mentoring conference once where someone said, you don't need a mentor. What you need is a personal board of directors. And that's one of the things that I've been building throughout my life, is just bringing in different people who matter to you and whose judgment you trust and who bring in different perspectives to make sure that you have sounding boards everywhere. And I've got people like that from all walks of life and from everywhere I've been, and they have diverse backgrounds. And that's been something that's really motivated me to make sure that I can be there for others as well. That's just a little bit about my come up story. I'm looking forward to the panel discussion where I can share more. I just want to close by thanking Leon, Kurston, the whole team at Ubisoft for the work they're doing to champion this issue and for supporting this dialogue. It's coming at a momentous time in American and global history as we think about race and racial equality, among other major issues that are going on. And, it's easy to think, oh, this is happening at this moment in time because we want to talk about those issues. I got my first invitation from Leon to join one of these efforts back at E3 in 2019, where they were throwing a mixer. And I just want to thank you for raising your voice and ours, bringing together this amazing group of panelists. I'm excited about the questions I'm going to be asking, I'm going to be hearing about, and the panel discussions. And I'm excited about the fact that we're all going to be creating this pipeline together.
Thank you so much, Stanley. That was really amazing. And we're so happy that you're here today. So now, moving on from Stanley, we have our next speaker today. So today we have Melissa Canseliet coming from Ubisoft Montreal studio. So Melissa's been working for Ubisoft for about 7 years now, and actually got the job in the video game industry because apparently it wasn't brain surgery. How are you doing today, Melissa?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Kurston. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Melissa, and I'm very happy to talk to you and to share with you about how I got into the industry and how actually the industry can be so much more open than I was expected to unconventional paths. Indeed, about 10 years ago, I was working as a research engineer in neuroscience. I was born with difference because my mother is black, my father is white. My mother was taking care and looking at children with disabilities. My father was a martial art teacher, so it was logical for me to study neuroscience. And as I was working as a research engineer, I was rather expected to dissect brain and look at them for a living, until I realized that unfortunately I could not do that anymore. So I had to try very hard, and so I went to business school. So I had to end up my career in neuroscience, even though it was starting very well at Oxford University. And I was feeling very alone when I had to go to business school and check how I could manage to do something else. And then the combination between science and marketing and business was very relevant for pharmaceuticals. Unfortunately, that was an industry that I didn't want to approach at the time. So I was very open to a variety of opportunities, but I didn't have any portfolio. I didn't have any professional experience in communication, marketing, or business. I just managed to have one opportunity to work at Cisco at the time, and I felt blessed to have another opportunity to actually start over, even though it would not be possible to use my double background in neuroscience and my 4 years of research in England, and I would have to choose. I would have to use neuroscience, or I would have to start over a new career in business. I think it was about a couple of months before my first professional experience in a company in marketing strategy. So it was supposed to be Cisco at the time, when the yearly companies forum at the school took place. Basically, company came to the business school and set up a booth to try and attract students to give out their CV. And they tried very hard with any kind of goodies, as you can imagine. And my friend and I took advantage of all the goodies. And because we already had job offers, we were just doing that. Then we heard some music, and so people dancing at the stand nearby. And this was actually the Ubisoft stand, hosted by a senior producer who was actually an alum of the school. And it was attracting like tons of people with this Just Dance stand. So my friend and I came to ask him if we could play, because we were so excited. And he just replied, yes, but you have to give your CV first. And we were like, no, we didn't have ours because we had already job offers. So we were not looking for a job. So we ended up in a corridor with a black and white printer, getting our pixelized CV to go and play. And while working on the printer, we were kind of making fun of the situation, thinking, wow, these people would only let us play if we give our CV, and how fun is that? They're supposed to make game. How fun is that? But we still gave our black and white pixelized CV anyway, and we started to play. The game was great, and this was the end of the day. And 3 weeks later, I got a call from Ubisoft telling me that they were actually looking for someone with the neuroscience and marketing strategy skills. I just could not believe it. It was definitely not the kind of profile I would expect them to look for. And obviously, I had a Game Boy when I was little, and I played the Wii at some friend's place, but that could not be it. So I went to like 3 interviews, got the offer, which I accepted. And I have to say that for a few years, I felt as an imposter. I was so impressed by the richness of the video game culture, by my very qualified colleagues. Of course, there are much more male in this industry than female, and there are very, very few Black people as well. So I had to not be scared to be different that time again, and to pursue and to work on various subjects that were coming to me at the time, because I entered the strategic innovation team and met amazing colleagues there, and was lucky enough to work on the implementation of biometric tools in user research, emotional intelligence for collaboration in team with HR, and also on user experience strategy, UX. And it helped me year after year feeling a bit more legitimate. And now I work as a user research project manager on customer experience, which is basically all the touch points that are not directly within the game when people actually play the game. And I would work on how we can improve marketing assets, buying flows, customer support, and while we try to increase consistency for our players throughout all those touch points, taking account cognitive processes about how the brand actually process information is a great asset. And I'm also interested in studying biases we still have in our methodology and how we can continue expanding our studies and markets and lifestyle we still need to learn about. And this drive is, of course, linked to my interest in diversity and how it might lead to better opportunities, not only for us as a company, but also for, to reach more players. So it's actually my 8 years at Ubisoft, and I realized that, yes, the game industry is so much more than games. And today I'm still very impressed by my colleagues, but I don't feel as an imposter anymore because I just tend to accept that I was different, but also to make it as an asset in the company. Because, of course, I have a very specific background, but I can also have the opportunity to push for innovation through this background. And so I have much more relevance now. I feel that I have more relevance, and the video game industry is expanding to many ways to play and to many types of people in the world, I'm so happy to be able to use science, innovation, and strategy. And right now, I'm very interested in trends and how unconventional paths like mine are also an asset for the company to go further. So I have to say that the talk of Stanley Pierre-Louis resonated a lot for me because all of this was a succession of decision-making where I had to not be afraid to be different, where I really had to try hard, especially when I had to make a real switch in my career and be able to say, okay, I give up because this is not me. And this ended up being true to myself and being happy at work. So I hope that it can help more people not being afraid to reach out the video game industry, believe in themselves, and not giving up, trying hard on any opportunities, even it might just seem very unlikely as just giving a CV for playing a game. And I'm very looking forward to questions of the panel. And I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I like that you talked about imposter syndrome because I feel that at many different times throughout our careers, we all experience that. So you're not alone in that. And we're most definitely not imposters anymore. When saying that, let's start off our first panel. So the first panel is going to be about how to get into the industry. Our panelists today are going to be Lyisha Johnson, Dean Jones, Melissa, who we just finished speaking with, Dianna, Lora, and Felesha Anderson. How are y'all doing today?
Pretty good, Kurston.
Doing great.
Hey.
Hey. Fantastic. Thanks.
So nice to see all your beautiful faces today. This is such a great event today. So let's start off with the first question here. Education. What kind of education background do you need to get into the industry? And do certain jobs require different kinds of studies? Let's start with you, Lyisha.
Did you say Lyisha?
Lyisha.
Lyisha.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So for me, my background isn't in gaming. My background's actually in marketing and advertising and events. So for me, what I can say is it's really, really important in every industry. I've always tried to venture into, I've always pivoted my experience and my expertise to go to that industry. So for me, I always say find a skill set, study a skill set that can be transferable no matter what the industry is that you're going into. It's not also always about conforming to the industry. It's taking your skills and reformatting them to work for that. And then you'll also be able to work with your passion once you find how your skills can be transferable to any industry.
No, that makes a lot of sense. How about you, Dean?
Here at Microsoft, as Stan and Leon and Melissa have kind of addressed, is we hire multiple different types of people to work in the gaming industry. So imagine the Xbox team, the Microsoft Studio team is a $16 billion operation, right? With a multitude of different roles and responsibilities. So if you look at the creation of games and then the management of games and just that whole portfolio, managing our partner relationships with the likes of Ubisoft and our other software vendors who build on our platforms, there's so much opportunity for young people. And part of it as well is I'm a program ambassador for Microsoft for startups. So one of the things that I quickly realized doing this role for the last 3 years, I've been at Microsoft for 7, is that in the Black community or the communities of color, there are very few developers. And then when you start breaking it down and you try to figure out what's the rationale or the reason behind it, it's that the education system does not mirror the job market, right? And you don't have the likes of Microsoft and others. I'm just going to throw us under the table for a brief minute, leaning in to help educate individuals on the possibilities, right? So when you look at the industry from a creative standpoint, there's only one person that I know, and we've been trying to work with her for the last 2 years, and not to her detriment, but just some minor things as it relates to the industry, is the Black college football experience. It was the Doug Williams experience, right? And that was one of the first games that I even realized because I bought it for my son, right? And I'm a proud graduate of Grambling State University, which is a HBCU here in the United States. So I definitely wanted to support the young lady who built the game and try to find out more about her. So I reached out to her team and realized even more, where the holes are, right? So here you have this industry where, yeah, we're underrepresented, and that goes without saying, but more so, it's where's the skill, right? You need music, right, for these games. Who's teaching, music as far as from a score perspective? Who's teaching that? Who's educating people on that? So that is a missing component. And then when you look at, Stan mentioned it earlier, being a lawyer, how do you manage IP and creative ideas without people losing their ideas, right? So that was another issue that we ran into. But most importantly, funding. Who provides funding? We're the VCs. Where are the private equity when it relates to the art of the real, right? How do you get young people motivated to come into this industry? And I love working here at Microsoft because I get to touch on all of that, right? I get to influence a lot of that real community, and I'm just glad Leon has agreed to broaden our relationship between Ubisoft and Microsoft, because there's a lot that we can achieve together, and I'm looking forward to participating in that partnership.
I really like your answer, Dean. And also, when you speak about collaborations, hopefully by the end of this event, we can continue this conversation with many other companies as well. I think that's so important.
Oh, definitely.
All right, Dianna, how about you?
Well, everybody's talking about their way into the gaming industry, and sort of my way was very unorthodox. I didn't go to school for gaming. I was a musical theater major. I went to school for theater, and I went for performance art, and then kind of found my way you know, into gaming by, you know, randomly getting asked by a couple of friends to do a video game show for a public access show in New Rochelle. And so, and so that's kind of what we did for, you know, for 8-9 years. And while I was working, you know, off-Broadway school, productions and auditioning, and also, you know, working my full-time job, I was also on the side, you know, going to networking events and partnering with different video game companies, and going to E3 and reviewing games and helping with different websites. So that's kind of my way of getting into the gaming industry. Like I networked, I busted my butt to get here. I clawed my way and applied to a metric ton of job postings, and everything that I did on the side, you know, during my free time, was hard hustle work, and really at the end of the day, it's all about, I think what was said earlier was the importance of opportunity. And I don't think that we talk about that enough, is that we have to work, you know, as people of color, we have to work double hard. And as a woman, you know, I have to work extra hard to just get my foot in the door, because I lost so many opportunities to be very frank, to men who, specifically white men, who I, you know, couldn't, for whatever reason, the hiring manager just didn't think I was qualified enough because I didn't know what sports were. They assumed I didn't know sports, which is the most ridiculous thing. So it's really having the opportunity to having opportunity, networking, and really I think what was super valuable and what was said earlier is just being a good person. People remember, you know, you have to be kind, you have to be considerate, you have to be humble, and also always remember to, you know, that like you're building a network of people, and you're building that portfolio of people that you're going to be working with, and you're going to be bringing them with you, and you're going to be working with, and they're always going to remember you. And I 100% agree, like, you know, because I was nice and I, you know, was hardworking, people were like, hey, Dianna, she's dope, you should hire her. And that's pretty much how I got here. I just sing, dance, and act at the same time. That was my thing.
That's really dope to hear. And also, like you said, networking is so key. We both had a different unorthodox way of landing where we are right now. And I feel like if my friend didn't work here at the time, I might have had a much harder time getting in, or I might not even be here right now, to be straight up, right? So networking is so crucial as well. But networking for the right reasons as well. Don't just network because you want a job. Make a genuine connection. Get to know this person. Get to know the industry you want to get into. And then continue that conversation if it leads to that. Now, so we want to...
Exactly, and I think it's the importance of being authentic as well. You know, like you need to be authentic while you're networking. It's not like, because you could tell when somebody's trying to just get to you because, you know, they have something that, you know, or you have something that they want. So if you're authentic about it, then I think that also adds to it.
No, 100%. What are your thoughts, Felesha?
I totally agree. Networking has been something that's been difficult for me to put in my to frame my mind around. I remember hearing someone say, instead of thinking of, oh, I'm trying to use this person, instead of going, oh, how can I serve them? Like these are my skills and this is why you need me. And I was like, that helped to reframe networking for me as more relational and authentic, as Dianna was saying. I never thought I would work at a gaming company, and I'll go more into that during my speech, but I've never been a gamer. So for me, I really fell into it. I just applied to an ad. And that's how I did it. So my story couldn't be more different from Dianna's, who really wanted to be in it. Also, I love Dianna that you're a triple threat. I also have a musical background, so that's really fun. But I applied to an ad. I mean, I'm an office manager, so my job is I started in accounting, but wanted to pivot to something that was more working with people. That's the part that I enjoy, and getting to create culture and make people feel welcome. And I mean, at home, I mean, it's an office, right? Let's not push it too far, but that idea of I think having a good workplace is so important. So as far as education, no, actually, I thought I was going to work at a church full time and kind of go into ministry. So I started going to Bible school and in accounting and was like, all right, I don't like accounting. How can I pivot from that to something else? And so that drew me into office management. And depending on where you're at, it's a kind of a great spot at a company if you don't know where you want to go or kind of what area of the company you're most interested in, because office management looks different at each company. I've worked places where it was more of a jack of all trades, and it's like, okay, I'm HR, I'm IT, I'm interviewing people, so I get to kind of see which pieces do I like. So education is helpful. Like if you want to do business administration and that kind of thing, that's not my experience. I really just kind of took one step at a time and took risks. I would apply for jobs. I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. My first office manager role, I was like terrified, and I was young, but I think it just opened a new world of opportunities for me to explore. Oh, wow, there's a breadth of opportunities within the office management space that I have access to. And I get a behind the scenes look of how to actually run a business. What goes into it as far as the practical things of facilities and, printers, like all the random things that you don't really think about. Through this role, I've had the opportunity to kind of see all those things from more of a bird's eye view.
Yeah, like you mentioned that as well, because for a lot of us, I can speak on the dev side as well, that when you're on the job, you learn a lot of different things as well. So let's say I learned how to do a certain process at school. I might even do that at the studio. I think might be completely different. So learning on the job is really good as well.
Yes.
So sorry about that.
Oh, no, just agreeing with you.
Yeah, so finally, to finish this question, we'll move on to the next one. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
The thing is that I think I had the chance to grasp how unconventional would be fine, because I went to the video game industry through the door of innovation, and so that's when you really have the opportunity to grasp the velocity of trends, new tech, new business models, new society subjects that will affect the way people consume games, that will affect the way we create games. That it became maybe more natural for me to accept unconventional, despite my personal experience. So that's one thing. And then to just, underline what Dianna was saying about being a Black woman in the gaming industry, of course you feel different. Of course you have to work twice as hard. And I really felt like that. I think that I think the first years as a defensive mechanism, I think that I was like putting too much science, in the conversation. Of course I was a neuro geek, but still I think I was putting even much more just to to have this, credibility card that I was not thinking I would, be able to get. And I think that was not relevant. And so that comes back to what Felesha was saying about, yes, how you can be at the service of someone. And then, really try hard. You really have to be really, to have, empathy towards any kind of team, to really try to be in their shoes and think, okay, now what problems do they have? How with my skills, how with my experience, with my network in the company, I can do something for them. And that's how it worked really well. And that's how I really got to get a network of colleagues who really trust me, who are like, yeah, she's great, etc. So it's really about going to surpass, the fears of being different, of being unconventional, of thinking this is too much, these guys are not like me, and doing the right thing, being a good person again.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So let's go on to the second question now. This is actually a question that we get all the time. So I'm very curious to see what everyone's answers are going to be. So the question is, landing that first job in the industry, any tips for scoring an interview, Is it better to start at a small company or go to a big one? I feel like this is something I wanted to ask getting into college, but I never knew who to put at, how to ask it, where to place it. So if I had this information now, if I had this mixer back when I was like 18, 19, this probably would open up a bigger opportunity for me in regards to, oh, I could apply literally anywhere. So, if you edit it, Melissa, let's start with you now.
Well, I have to say that, of course, the one enter of the video game industry was quite unexpected because I didn't apply specifically. So it was more of a random, thing. However, I think that it's very important to try according to what's best for you. So it depends on how you have. Maybe if I would have a background which would be very specific, then I would rather try in a big company. Because I know that I would have enough, work related to my background. If I want to know more about different jobs in the company and that I'm really open to many kind of jobs within a company, eventually picturing myself later building my own studio or having my production, maybe I would try a small company. I think that with this great initiative, at least we have ways, of course, to offer more network opportunities. And I think that's a really good way to start with, because of course, while, trying to envisage where I would apply, I would definitely value asking people about their experience before, like, how's the experience, what was their background, how did they manage, tips for interviews, tips, even for specific people that they might know, etc. So I would definitely try to network in order to confirm my hypothesis into where I should go. And I think that for that, this event is great.
I agree with that. So Dean, big company like Microsoft, should people be intimidated to apply to that? Should they just go for it and see what happens?
No, they should come over here with open arms. They should be ready to hit the ground running. I always encourage young students to consider us for employment. But typically what you see is that everyone is apprehensive based on the conversation that we're having is like, do I go work for this huge company? And what they don't realize is, hey, we have a mock program. We have an internship over here. Come kick the tires. That's what an internship is designed for. You get to kick the tires as a student to see, hey, is this the right culture? Is this the right fit for me? And I'm just amazed at people not taking advantage of internships. I've been blessed in my career. I've worked for four large companies. I've worked for Cisco Systems, I've worked for IBM, I've worked for Infosys, and now I work for Microsoft. But I've also worked for 4 startups. So I always consider myself an insatiable learner. And I've always based my decision on where I wanted to go work based on what I wanted to learn, right? So if I wanted to learn to be a consultant, the best place in the world is IBM. It's one of the best consulting firms in the world. One of the best software companies in the world is Microsoft. I wanted to work at Microsoft. I made a plan to come work over here. So that's pretty much how I got into this business. I've worked in the wireless business, and that's always going to be relevant, especially in gaming now. And I had the opportunity to work in South Africa for Microsoft, and all the networks over there were wireless. So that's going to be, the next frontier. How do you take a on-platform or cloud or any type of environment for gaming to the anywhere experience, right? What I call being able to take your cell phone and whatever other, like your watch or something like that, and go anywhere and play a game. I am fascinated by the art of the possible always, because one thing this pandemic has shown us that a lot of stuff has yet to be invented. This pandemic didn't care if you were a communist country, a socialist country, or a capitalist country. It took us all out, and we're still trying to recover, financially and economically. And I always tell startups, it's like when you have chaos, like you have now, there's so much opportunity for innovation. And that's what I'm optimistic about, because for us as a people, there is so much opportunity. And if you're fearless, like Stan was talking about, and the other young ladies who mentioned, about their careers, you have to be fearless. You just cannot have that fear to make you pause or stop. You just have to go through and fail fast, like we say over here. Fail fast, learn from your failures, and move on.
Yeah, that whole thing with fail fast, that's something that I've learned in life from like my mom actually. So hearing that, that's just one of the things I've always put forward into everything I do in life. So that's, I think, very important. So we have about 5 minutes left in this panel, so we're going to jump right into the Q&A. So Lyisha, I have a question for you. The question is, what advice do you give young people starting out? How should they network?
Oh, I like this question. I really, really like this question. One of the things about this question that resonates to me that I think is so important is you have to find an ally. It is so important to have somebody that is willing and that is invested in you. For me, even in my career, I've been at PlayStation for 6 years. And then prior to that, and I'll tell that in my come up story, my background's in marketing and advertising. But for me, having people who are rooting for me, that sometimes, as Stan even said, they're not the same color as me, but they're rooting for me based on my experience, what they know I bring to the table, that is so, so important. The other thing too is not only just an ally, you also need somebody that is a sponsor. That a sponsor is important because a sponsor is somebody at the senior level of wherever you're trying to get that has influence, and they can endorse and advocate for you. So I say get a sponsor, get an ally, and most of all, be yourself. Be your authentic, true self. I've heard a lot of the women say, like, a lot of people say they're not game. I'm not a gamer. You guys will hear that story. I'm not a gamer. Anybody on here who knows me knows I'm not a gamer, but I work for PlayStation. But I am passionate about what I do as an events manager. So you take your passion and you make it work for whatever company you walk into. You let them know when you interview, when you have that screening with that recruiter on the phone, you sell them to where when they hang up the phone, they run to go tell the hiring manager to hire you.
That is a very strong, awesome answer.
Yes.
All right, so Dianna, I have a question for you now. What was the biggest transition shift from you moving from previous roles into your current role right now?
That's a good question. So I have a tendency to really minimize the work I do, and I'm really trying to the quarantine has taught me that I really need to elevate myself and I really need to put myself out there more. So why is this important? It's because I minimize my experience as being my performing arts experience, and I really don't think I should do that, because it really taught me how to not be afraid. It taught me that it's okay to be an idiot. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to be bold, and it's okay to be brave. But one of the most important things that I think it also just taught me to how to communicate and how to collaborate with people. So pretty much if you look at my resume, one of the constant threads in my resume is sort of like relations, like collaboration, communication. And so literally my last job was called collaboration coordinator. So I collaborated that coordination, whatever that means. But like, and so there really has it like the transition wasn't really difficult because even though my experience, if you look at it, can be all over the place, the biggest thread of it is that it's client services, it's collaborating, it's talking to people, it's gathering people together, organizing people, and really motivating people. And so moving into my current position, that's kind of what I do right now as well.
That's really good as well. So that actually concludes this panel. So thank you all for sharing everything. I really do appreciate it. And hopefully that people listening in took a lot of information from this and maybe took some notes, because there's some really good gems in there. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to go into our next keynote speaker. Our next keynote speaker is Junae Benne. Junae comes from a background of broadcast journalism, but loves sitcoms and comics. Her dialogue is a bit quirky, so is her writing. As an esports journalist and a hostess, she loves video games and has a very big heart for her community. Junae, how are you doing today?
I am great. I am loving this Black joy. We're having great conversation and it's helping. So I'm just basking in it.
That's amazing. Yes, please kindly tell the people your story.
All right, boom. So here we go. I am first generation American. My family is Jamaican. So I'm like the third person ever in my lineage to be born here. I went to school for broadcast journalism. So I started in news, NBC, Comcast Sportsnet before it was NBC Sports. And just like Lyisha said, I had to reformat my skills because news was really sad for me. Like, I never wanted to do soft stories like, oh, there's a squirrel water skiing, but to like go report on like fires and violence, like that's just awful for me. And that's mostly like what news kind of is, especially now. So I started in news, and then not only was it sad, but I had to struggle with my natural hair. Like no one really wanted me to be able to express myself that way, or it was out of the norm. So I was less likely to get jobs, less likely to be chosen for things, stuff like that. So I took it upon myself to then enter into the video game scene, which was really exciting. I made up this title, which was video game journalism. And then later on, I found out it was real. And then when I got into video games, I got more into the esports side because I love sports in general. And which led me to go to the fighting game community. I created a space for the fighting game community when I lived in Denver, Colorado, called the Gaming Dojo, which was really exciting because I got to be a part of the community. I got to have people pretty much come to my spot like every week or so like that. And it was really exciting. From there, that's when I started to like actually report on esports. So use my broadcast journalism and to pretty much do things for myself. So what happened is I either got shut out of a lot of places due to like racism, colorism, sexism, all the isms that you can pretty much think of. And I started to get chose because I started to do things for myself. Like I started writing for myself. I started publishing for myself. I started to make videos for my own YouTube because nobody wanted me on camera. They weren't giving me a shine. They weren't trying to give me a spot in anything. But because after years of doing that, people started to choose me and be like, oh, I see you doing this. Oh, I see you doing that. And that stuff isn't on accident. I think the hardest part for doing it for yourself is not knowing when your opportunity is going to come because you're giving yourself the opportunity. And, you know, you're not a big person. You're not, you know, Sony. You're not those people. And I think one of the more exciting things that happened to me is that I was recognized by a Microsoft recruiter to come and pretty much put on gaming events every week, 3 times a week for Microsoft, because I was doing events. I was going to events, I was covering events, I could cultivate and galvanize the community. So that was pretty exciting. And like Dianna said, I had a problem minimizing myself and just being like, oh, you know, I don't want to talk about it, or, oh, you know, it's not that big of a deal. And you can't do that. You can't do that because then people won't recognize your shine. And that's something that I am still working on myself. Another major part of my journey is seeking out Black women in tech, in fighting games, in esports. Like, that's what I want my niche to be. Like, I want someone to be like, man, I need a Black girl who plays Apex. And they'd be like, oh, Junae would know. Like, I want to be able to provide a list. I also want to encourage more Black women to come into the space because we're needed. And if we aren't there and we're not being treated properly, that industry is trash. You know what I mean? Like, we got to be in there because we are the most not checked for. You know, people aren't checking for us when we show up. And if they treat us accordingly, then we can proceed to be like, yeah, this industry is top notch. This industry does this. But until then, you know, that industry is nothing without us. You guys are nothing. Do you hear me? No, I'm just joking. But yeah, you really just got to include us. And I just want to continuously encourage Black women to show up, because when I show up to an event, I'm not just here for Junae Benne. I'm here for all the Black women who don't think they have a voice. Recently reading something and realizing that, you know, some Black women don't like to turn their camera on when they're streaming. I'm also a streamer, or they don't want to use any headsets or things like that to talk because they don't want to show up because of the intense environment. Like, I want that to become less of a thing. And not just because, like, if you're shy, I get it, but if you're scared, I want Black women to start getting over that. So I think that's also what started my streaming career, because I started streaming on Xbox from my Kinect in like 2014, 2015, something like that. So that's pretty much my story. And I'm here and I'm showing up, and I'm gonna keep showing up. And then I'm gonna encourage other people to show up as well.
Yeah, like show up often, every single time. And when you talk about Black women not being as visible in the gaming community, especially for streaming, like one of my buddies and I always talk about, we know a lot of Black women that play fighting games in particular, but they just won't come to the event. So hopefully that at the end of this all, they'll get to meet each other, network with each other, and maybe they'll put out their own FGC somewhere in their local city or their local online environment. I think that's going to be super crucial moving forward.
Yep. And if you need someone to fight for you, it's me. So if you're at a fighting game event and you're like, like hit me up on Twitter or something, and I'll literally come over and talk to you. Like, if you don't have nobody rooting for you in pool, even if you feel like you're going 0-2, I'll be there and I'll be like, I saw you playing footsies. You better go, girl. Like, anything you need, I will be there.
You heard it here first. Go holler at your girl. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, now we're going to move on to another keynote speaker. Let's see. All right, so coming up next is Felesha Anderson. You already met her, but let me give you a little bit more of a story about her.
We're missing one. We're going to go JP Doho first. Jean-Philippe.
Oh, JP first?
Yep. All good. It's all good. That's in the schedule. We have Jean-Philippe Doho first, who is part of our legal innovations team in Paris. I've been working with him for a long time, working on events like E3 and others, where he helped me create the contract for these kind of events. So all like the business deals and these kind of things. After that, he transitioned into legal innovations, which he has been doing now for, I think, the last year and a half, but you'll probably be able to tell a little bit more about it himself, which is a very interesting field to be in currently, since there's a lot of cool stuff going on. So JP, if you're ready.
Yes, I am. Thank you. And Kurston, I will talk to you afterwards about them. No, I'm kidding. Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Jean-Philippe Doho. I'm part of the legal team here at Ubisoft. I've been at Ubisoft for 5 years and a half, a little bit more than that. And so why, how did I arrive at Ubisoft? So basically my background, I studied law in France, mostly business law. And I went to the US to study IP law in Washington University in St. Louis. And when I came back, I was always passionate about movies. So I did internships for a movie agent and production firm here in France. I went to Cannes Festival, and I was really interested in that. And actually, at that time, Ubisoft was about to release the Assassin's Creed film. And actually, I saw the film of the director of Assassin's Creed, Kurston, Hamlet, in Cannes. So I saw the link between that, and actually in my cover letter, I kind of put that out there that I knew the director of the film, and I was really interested to see the Assassin's Creed film, and also obviously I was doing IP law. So actually, I got the interview. I played video games all my life, so I was interested in that, but it was mostly transitioning with the film and kind of entertainment field. So I started at Ubisoft as a junior legal counsel. I did 3 years of contract with Leon as well, working on events, so putting up huge booth for E3 or other events that we're putting out around the world. did some merchandising contracts, a lot of contracts, a lot of advice to teams when we produce the games, when people want to use, hey, I want to use Nike shoes. And I say, hey, no, you cannot, or stuff like that. And then during that time, I want to stress out that I was doing a lot of projects on the side. I was managing a singer. I was also doing a documentary about a basketball team with my best friend, because I'm a huge basketball fan. And so at that time, our DPO asked, does someone know anyone doing, the Rapids team, And I was like, oh yeah, I know them, and they're doing videos. And we actually produce motion design videos to educate our employees about data privacy. And we took that, project from zero and literally, produced 4 videos. And I did the voiceover. I was doing the link with the video team, and really I was doing contract at the same time. So it was really a big success. And actually after that, my chief legal officer called me up and said, hey, we're building up this legal innovation team. Would you want to be part of it? I did not know what legal innovation was at the time. And I actually said yes without really looking at that. That's kind of how I am, and wanted to move forward and do something new. And yeah, it was kind of a new field. What we do is basically there's 4 types of things that we do. We do legal operations, which is basically managing the enormous contracts that we have. We do contracts all the time, so we have tons of them. So we manage, how do you put the contracts here or there. We do legal tech, which is basically automating contracts. So rather than doing really basic contracts all the time, you just automate them with tech. We also do legal design, which is present legal documents better for people to not sign documents that they do not read or understand. Working with designers, and then we do communication awareness, like those videos I talked about. So basically trying to make legal more attractive, more simple. I went to Canada to see our Canadian teams, Canadian Legal Counsel, and kind of present how they work, make it more accessible. As you can see, I'm not wearing a suit and tie. And so, kind of people think, oh man, the lawyers, we don't want to. But yeah, we are normal people, and that's kind of also my job to make it more attractive, and also work with our legal team and make them more curious, more creative. Yeah, we have a 4-people team. We work with a developer, designer, head of legal innovation, my manager, Geoffrey, who's really just interesting guy who always try to make us things differently. So I'm not doing contracts anymore. I'm pretty happy about that, even though my parents are still wondering why I didn't pass the bar. And that's why also a thing that I want to tell to people about, when my parents are from Ivory Coast. They came to France in the 80s, and I was born in France, went to top law school in France, 2 of the top law school in France and the US. And I was always feeling like, kind of normal for me to be in those schools. And then when I went to Ubisoft, obviously I was working with Leon, but obviously, not seeing a lot of diverse people was always not tough, but just a question you always ask yourself. But what I did was to always stay different. I was doing those videos. I was really proud to talk about it at work. And they were really happy to listen what I was doing. And that's why when we did the video project, they were like, hey, Jean-Philippe, do you know people at the video team? I think you're kind of, doing stuff on the outside. Maybe you could help us. And I really took that project, not thinking, hey, I'm going to be legal innovation manager one day. I just did it because I liked doing that, because I like films. So, I really want to push people that, you're doing music, you're doing whatever. Don't, if you're doing a job that's really, for example, like me doing contracts, that doesn't mean you cannot do the other things. And that doesn't mean you need to hide those things. I really want to, share that experience. And so now the kind of new project that we're working on with everything I do, the idea for me now is to continue to be at the forefront of legal innovation with Ubisoft. Personally, to continue, learn about legal innovation, and to come back actually on the hiring process that I had at Ubisoft. Basically, my hiring manager told me that actually at the first steps I didn't get selected, and actually they didn't find any good profiles that were really like what they were looking for. So they actually did another round and they found me. So, and I stayed for 5 years. And so, yeah, I'm pretty happy that they did that. And also I'm pretty happy that, I really, stayed focused on that. So I want to finish up by just saying that, keep doing stuff on the outside. I'm doing basketball, I'm doing yoga, I watch films all the time. And if you want to apply to Ubisoft or to any video game companies, you just gotta, really try to find a link on where, you find something that interests you. And then, don't worry about, can I fit in or do I fit in? Is it the right company for me? Just bring yourself and also your baggage and whatever you're doing, because I actually believe that it's by bringing that energy and bringing that, diverse way of thinking that you can actually bring something to the table that people are interested in. And now I'm happy that, I'm doing conferences talking about legal innovation. I went to Berlin, met amazing, lawyers that were interested in, hey, you guys are doing legal innovation. Why don't we work together? We were talking about how to network before. And I think in my position, I did a couple of networking events or conferences. And I would tell you that, one thing I always did was if you have a good conversation with someone, just, hey, let's keep in touch, and do keep in touch. It's those type of things without thinking about, hey, what that person is going to bring me. So I'll give you an example of that lawyer that I saw in Berlin. We actually talk about, agile management, some really techie stuff. And we kept in touch, and I said, hey, we have a designer in my team. We have a developer. Would you be interested to do a project with us? And we've been working on the project since then, and we got closer with that law firm, actually. And yeah, it's a project that, wouldn't have existed without me just talking to that guy, talking to that lawyer, and staying in touch. So I think that's really important. And to, stay yourself, stay diverse, just bring something different to the table. And I think that anyways, if you're doing law or if you're doing marketing, that would always, that difference would be the key factor. So to finish up, now I want to get into politics one day, and I think video games actually is a way to do that, because if you think about it, a lot of people are trying to make, how do you make people learn stuff without being too serious or too, boring? And actually video game is a great way to do that. So I encourage you to think about that as well, because that's also a new field that would be very interesting, how to educate people with, gaming principles. And that's the new field I'm interested in. So we will see.
Thank you so much, JP. And I'm sorry.
No worries. I don't do contracts anymore, but I can talk to people at legal to see if, hey.
Okay. I love that you talked about, again, genuine networking. I feel that theme is going to keep coming back and back throughout this entire conversation today. So, again, those keeping tabs, genuine networking is so crucial.
Yes.
Thank you again for your time. Now, moving on to our next speaker, for real this time, Felesha Anderson. So, Felesha is a problem solver extraordinaire, aka office manager at Ubisoft Film and Television in LA. She believes that creating a positive work environment is a key factor in employee retention. Originally from Washington State, the warmer weather and creative atmosphere drew her to LA 7 years ago. She's passionate about supporting Black film and television, singing, songwriting, and educating herself on social justice issues. Welcome back, Felesha. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm so excited to be here. Leon, Kurston, thank you for this opportunity. I'm really encouraged by hearing everybody's, how everyone's so multifaceted. I think growing up, that was not something that I saw a lot. And I thought I was weird I'm like, oh, I like all these different things. So like I said earlier, I didn't ever see myself working for a video game company. I've never been an avid gamer. My dad actually worked in computers. So growing up, we played a lot of computer games, education, entertainment, that kind of thing. After taking a class in college about the history of media and entertainment, I was blown away learning about the male gaze, and that the first blockbuster film in the US was a propaganda film about the KKK that even played in the White House. So the power of entertainment, of story, of history all converged in that moment for me. I'm someone who has always been passionate about a lot of different things at the same time, so that made choosing a career difficult growing up. I was a church kid, so initially I thought I was going to go into full-time ministry. When I started Bible school, I also started working in accounting. And although I was good at it, I dreaded going to work every day. After moving to Los Angeles from Seattle, I ended up getting another accounting job at a furniture manufacturing company. They said that the accounting software that I'd used before was a perfect fit, but when I arrived on my first day, it turned out it was a completely different software system, even though it was the same brand. So I had to learn to be flexible, think quickly on my feet, and hone my self-starter skills. The biggest jump I made was from that position into an office manager role at a boutique talent agency. It was my first Hollywood role, so I was definitely intimidated. It was a challenging role with challenging personalities. I was young, but the CFO believed in me, and she showed me the ropes. I'm so grateful for her because there were times when she believed in me more than I believed in myself, to be sure. It really gave me a chance to cut my teeth and grow my confidence. So although I'm not currently in a role that manages people, I do plan to incorporate her management style in the future. After that agency laid me off, I jumped into a new position at a new company and soon realized that it wasn't a good fit for me. Although I thought I had honed all of my interviewing skills and really knew what I was doing, in actuality, the company culture was super toxic. So as soon as I realized that it wasn't going to work, I started applying to new jobs, which is how Ubisoft and I found each other. I know people who have basically never had to apply for a job because they had a lot of connections, but that has not been my experience so far. As I previously mentioned, I'm not a gamer, so I wasn't familiar at all with the company when they called me, to my shame. I remember Googling them in preparation for the interview and was shocked to see their global presence and influence in the gaming industry. It was very kind of them to assure me that video game knowledge was not required to work here. Over the last couple of years, it's been really fun learning about the gaming side and the amazing worlds that we create. My office specifically focuses on film, television, and entertainment parks, and it's exciting to hear about how my team takes our worlds and creates a whole new perspective of them. For example, you can stream Mythic Quest, our live action comedy about working in a video game studio, on Apple TV Plus right now. Okay, maybe not right now, but after the event's over, later today, add it to your list. As far as advice, I think it's really important to learn who you are and develop a core set of values. When evaluating career moves, job opportunities, and even friendships and relationships, a core set of values helps you to make the right decision for you. When you encounter a person or a situation that conflicts with those values, you'll have a tough choice to make, but it's more important that you maintain your integrity than to sacrifice just because you want to please people or move up the corporate ladder. When I decided to leave one of my jobs, I remember sharing this information with another Black woman who worked there. Her response filled me with anxiety. I normally wear my hair naturally, and she kept going on and on about how lucky we were to work there because we can wear whatever clothes we want and we can wear our hair however we want, and told me about her horror stories. I was still pretty young in my career and started freaking out because I didn't want to have to work somewhere where I couldn't wear my hair how I wanted to. I literally called my mom after talking with her. And my mom reassured me that if a company required me to change my hair, then that wasn't the right company for me. It seemed like such a small thing, but it really changed my perspective on the entire situation. I had already determined that that company did not align with my values, which is why I was ready to leave, even though I didn't have the next job lined up. So remembering my core values gave me confidence to step out into the unknown, and ultimately, I was able to make a great career move as a result. My next piece of advice is to get your money right. Okay, you move through the world differently when you've got an emergency fund and you don't have to be stuck in a job that you hate. Now, I didn't have a support system that could financially support me, and LA is expensive. I've lived paycheck to paycheck before, and it took me years until I was in a place where I could save money regularly. Maybe it's time to invest in yourself and your own financial literacy. There are several Black-owned financial programs with resources to help you to create a budget, learn how to invest, how to maximize your retirement accounts, create a side hustle, etc. There's a level of peace that comes with knowing that if something pops off at your current workplace or your car needs an unexpected repair, you're covered. Two things you could do right now are to save $1,000 as quickly as possible, and then look at your spending habits to see how you can lower your expenses and save more money. You'll have more peace in the long run, I promise you. The last piece of advice I have is to try new things. I'm a firm believer in that what is meant for you is meant for you, and what isn't meant for you isn't meant for you. But that being said, how can you know what's meant for you if you don't try new things? Whether it's signing up for online courses, learning a new skill, volunteering, donating $5 a month, maybe to organizations that you believe in, join a book club, or apply for that job that seems a little out of reach. Do it, especially during this time in our lives. Try to incorporate things in your life that bring you joy, challenge you, and maintain your mental health. Being a holistically healthy person will make you happier and more productive. Something else that I also learned was that my job doesn't have to be everything. Maybe I don't have my dream job just yet, but I can be a person with a bunch of different interests, bunch of different activities that I've got going on outside of the workplace, and that can fill me if maybe your job is just not doing it for you. Now, 2020 has probably been a major blow to whatever goals you had for the year, right? However, I hope we can all take this time to reflect on how we got here, analyze how we're doing right now in the present moment, and build a life that we're each proud of. The world is in desperate need of passionate, clear-headed, sober-minded, creative, beautiful people who are determined to make a positive impact on the world around them. I'm eager to leave my mark, and I'm honored to encourage you on your various journeys. Keep pushing, keep fighting, and remember to take care of yourself in the process. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Felesha. And I think something you talked about too, like getting your money right. I feel that, especially in the Black youth, because I speak to myself for this is very important. I was garbage at that growing up. I would always make excuses like, oh, I can't save this because I have to pay for this, and I don't know how I can put away this much money in a short period of time. Just do it. Take the hit. Do it. Maybe you don't get coffee every day. Maybe you don't go out to eat with your friends every week, even though we're not supposed to be doing that right now. But I think that's very important to kind of drill into our minds that it's possible if you put your mind to it.
And you can start now with something little. It doesn't have to be $1,000 every week. It could be $5 a week, you know? Just starting is so important.
100%. Thank you so much, Felesha.
Thank you, guys.
All right, now we're moving on to panel number 2. For this panel, we're going to talk about from job to career, flourishing in the video game industry. And we're going to invite back Lyisha, Stan, Leon, Dianna, and JP. Welcome back, everyone.
Thank you so much, Kurston.
Hello.
And also, I want to take a moment to thank all the viewers and all the questions. We've been getting a lot of questions. We'll try to answer all of them before the end of the conference. But we're gonna try.
Yes, we'll try our absolute best. Oh, Mr. Wiggler, let's start with you. What's the best way you found network in the industry? Have these connected? I think it's very important for how does it come up a lot.
There's a lot of echo in the call, but I know the question, so let me dive right in. I hope the echo is not there in the stream. Maybe for those who are not speaking right now, mute your microphone. That might help. So for me, how did I turn from my job into a career real fast? Basically, I mean, I never thought I was able to get a career in video games. I didn't see that happen. I mean, I had no idea it was even an option. I had no idea as growing up here in Holland that there was an industry here, representation of the industry. I didn't know. So for me, finding that job in video games was already one thing. Then ever since I started, I don't know. I mean, I had this kind of like imposter syndrome that we talked about earlier. It's like, oh, I'm going to get fired either tomorrow, the day after, next month. Whenever I got like a call from my management, I was like, oh, this is going to be the day. Let me pack my stuff. I'm out. Never happened though. I don't know why. Still here. But instead of going from like the thing happening that I thought would happen, me getting fired or not being good enough or whatever, it went the other way because I found a kind of like breeding ground where I could develop, explore, try out, and especially within the events and experiential, we tried some very cool shit that caught the attention at a certain point in time of our HQ. And because of that, and me consistently delivering on what I was supposed to do, I got the call to come to Paris and work on the global events like I'm doing right now. And it all started with, well, basically me diving into this new industry that I first of all didn't even know was there, and just keep on grinding, don't give up, and try to improve yourself. And also, don't take things personal. I mean, it's business. It's easy to do. It's easy to be like, okay, if you get some feedback that you might not like, it might be easy to be like, they don't like me. I remember before I worked at Ubisoft, and that's something that I always remembered when I had my own company, and I was doing business with a fellow black dude over here in Holland, and he worked for this big like concert company, whatever, that produced concerts all over the place. And he gave us an opportunity. And I remember having a conversation with him being like, oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate the fact that you're helping a brother out here. And he was like, even though, yes, I am helping a brother out, it's business. We're thinking in the perspective of how this will contribute to the bigger picture business. And I never forgot about that. Because at first I was like, oh, he's not my friend. What the hell? Oh, we need to be friendly with everyone. But then after that, I thought about it, what it really meant. It's like business first. Be professional in how you approach it. And if you achieve consistently, the thing will happen. I mean, you will get there.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Even too, like, I feel that kind of the same conversation with people who get into these conversations of, I need to befriend this person. Like, no, just handle your business first, and if a friendship comes afterwards, let it happen naturally.
100%.
All right, Stanley, you've been doing this for a while. What do you think?
Well, I love what I've been hearing all day so far, and one of the things that I think about is you have to leave your bubble. What a lot of people have been talking about is extending themselves, making sure that they're hustling, grinding, and looking for different kinds of opportunities. And I think that's critically important. So you have to leave your bubble and not just stay within that one thing, or else you won't learn about these other opportunities. I think the second thing is you just have to be genuine. Mean what you say what you mean. It sounds simple, but people will get tired of you if you're not trustworthy or if they don't see you as genuine. And I have found that you just have to be who you are, and that doesn't mean they're always going to like it. But as we heard earlier, I think from Felesha, maybe it's not the right opportunity for you if you're not driving with it, if they don't want you for who you are. I think the third thing really for me that's been the most important is that networking is a two-way street. If you never help other people, at some point your goodwill fountain's going to run dry. I think Felesha earlier was talking about how you've got to get your money right. Well, you've got to get your goodwill bank right as well. You've got to make sure that you're developing and building currency within yourself with other people, because ultimately the things you really love are going to either come from that circumstance where you know someone who can help you leverage in, or someone who thinks about you when they see an opportunity and just says, hey, I think this is a great opportunity for you. So I think the more you drive those things, it's all important. So you have to have the grind, you have to have the hustle, you have to put in the time and to be creative, but you also have to have goodwill all around so that you can create new opportunities even when you don't see them.
Yeah, like you said, like getting that goodwill bank right, that is one of the most beautiful things I've heard today. That is, I think, so important as well. All right, so Dianna, like you, like myself, had a very unorthodox way of getting into the industry, and networking kind of helps. So what do you think on the matter?
Yeah. I think I really agree with Stan here. I agree with everybody. I think everybody's just giving these delicious jewels of knowledge here. They're dropping them. I think it really, really, really is important to remember that if when you're networking and you're meeting people, that if you say you're going to do something, then you got to do it. You got to have that follow through and be sincere about it as well. I think I said it earlier that like you have to be authentic. I can't tell you. Like I can spot it immediately. Like if somebody's trying to, like, the only reason they're coming to talk to me is because I used to work in partnerships as well, partnerships and licensing, and like if somebody wants something from me and I'm like I don't know if I want to give it to this person because the only reason they're coming up to me is because they want some free stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like I think think that it's really a matter of being genuine and authentic, and like if you really want to do business, then be real about it. Don't come at people like, you know, like with one side, but you really want something else. And I think also it's just I think also again what folks have been saying is about just like helping others. I think I make it my business because again, like it was very difficult for me to get where I am. I clawed my way in the door, and I always make sure to keep one foot out to keep the door open for others. And I'm reaching back, and I'm constantly pulling my friends over and constantly sending opportunities to them and those that I know and that I work with and who I know that, like, you know, they work very, very hard to do the things that they're doing right now, and they've worked hard to get to where they are. And like I see that and I observe that and I respect it. And that makes me want to help them. It's just I think Stan's what he's saying is just so true. It's about a bank of friendship and a bank of like a wealth of kindness and being humble and helping each other. So yeah, I think that those are the important things that we really, really need to remember, especially now. You know, I feel like these past couple of months we have to sort of like adjust how we're thinking and how we work with each other and how we interact with each other, and really remember that, you know, the most important thing that we have is how we you know, interact with each other and communicate with each other.
Yeah, and like when it comes to that as well, for me, I want to help you out. If you're showing me that you're working your ass off and you genuinely care about what you're doing, I have no issue helping you at all. But the second that I see that you're kind of shady in the sense, oh well, you work here, maybe you could help me out. That's not how this conversation is going on.
I mean, yeah, it's right though. Let's be real though. It's like, you know, you're right. You're 100% right.
I'm going to start with the second question now. And Lyisha, I'd love to hear your take on this since that you're in events. So sometimes our mistakes teach us more than our successes. What was your biggest mistake and what did you learn from it?
All right, there we go. This question, wow. One of my biggest mistakes, and I believe somebody else said this earlier, one of my biggest mistakes was not being my own cheerleader. And I say that to say because many times throughout my own career, I found myself rooting for other people, cheering them on, being the one that goes to the executive and going, do you know that such and such is doing a great job? You should reward them. And at the same time, not holding up that own regard for myself. So for me, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is sometimes you have to stop and root your own self on. Sometimes you have to stop and pat your own self on the back. Like, I did that. It was great. I did that because not only will it make you feel good, but it'll tell somebody like, you know what? She believes so much in herself or himself. We gotta trust them. We gonna go to the end with them. But for me, that was one of the biggest mistakes I learned was, and I still do it to this day. I'm always looking out for my team. I'm always like, they need. And I realize, you know, we all know this back in the day when, you know, a couple of months ago, when we can fly on a plane, they would say, put the mask on yourself first before you help somebody else. And I think we have to do that as people of color. Sometimes we have to pause and say, wait a minute, am I okay? Am I good? Am I ready to go to that next level? Because there's nothing worse than thinking that you're ready to go to the next level when you haven't mentally prepared yourself for that. So that's one of my mistakes, but I'm learning. It's making me get to my success.
No, I love that answer again. So JP, you're in legal. Let's hear it.
Obviously, it's not a legal mistake that I made. I just want to clarify that. No, yeah, I think hearing everyone, I think two of the things that I really want to share with people is that, first of all, I think one of my biggest mistakes that I had, obviously Ubisoft was my really first big job. I think coming in, I had to learn to be patient, you know, and I was talked to a lot to my family, to my friends, saying, hey, you know, I should be here, I should be there, I should do this, I should be that. And you know, I have a mentor who really talked to me about, you know, hey, you know, 1 year is not, you know, that much, or like, you should, be patient, and what about, waiting and then waiting what happened. And actually, looking back, I've really learned that, after 5 years now, almost 5 years at Ubisoft, the growth that, I've had in this company, and now that, to get responsibilities, to be a speaker at conferences around the world, like, at some point I was like, why am I not getting those chances? And I just had to be patient, and that's something that I've learned with the years, and now I'm really happy to really wait for my chance and really work hard, and just wait for those opportunity, and just to come back on the networking again, that also takes time. I think I've learned with time to, hey, what is that? How is this work? When you have people reaching out to you on LinkedIn or on email and say, hey, can you, I'm here, I'm this for this company, or I'm that. You have to also, it's pleasant sometimes to get opportunities and to say, hey, well, now people are reaching out to me. And I think in a way you have to kind of learn to, have a conversation with people, but also, yeah, stay genuine and always, because you never know. You can always, you have to be nice. You have to be, hey, thank you for the call, or thank you for the email, or thank you for the conversation, and then see how it goes. And that also takes a lot of patience and a lot of, I would say, humbleness in a way, to just be like, hey, thank you for reaching out, or like, thank you for the conversation. I really appreciate that. And then go from there, So yeah, I would say I've made some mistakes, but one of the biggest one as a young guy, of course, was to not be patient. But yeah, with the years now, I feel like I've got to a point of my career and of my life, that, I feel blessed of all the opportunities that I have, and looking forward to the future without rushing to anything.
Yeah, I hear you. And even when you speak to about talking to people a certain way, so I'm first generation Canadian. Both my parents come from Trinidad. And for those who have Caribbean parents, you learn how to speak to your higher ups or speak to family a certain way. You can't just speak to people willy-nilly. You're kind of like speak to things out of your ass, more to say, right? So I think that learning how to be a proper conversationalist is going to be crucial to kind of the growth of your career. And speaking of careers,
definitely, and don't respect confidentiality. I just want to throw it out there, Just make sure you keep your secrets of your company or of anything, That's really important. Yes, that's the only legal thing I would say today. That's the only legal thing I would say. Right?
And it's so tempting. It's so tempting, especially if you're a gamer and you work in the industry and you're like, oh my God, they're gonna release that game. Oh shit. It's like but indeed.
So Leon, you've been working at Ubisoft for 14 years now, and you've done a lot. So what accomplishment are you the most proud of?
Honestly, it's what we're doing here right now.
We want to hear it.
It's a culmination of that 14 years or whatever time that I invested in Ubisoft, and to see all of these wonderful people of color here on this screen together, it's beautiful. And it's not so much it's because at a certain point in time, especially if you get older and if you get further in your career, it's like you have all your accolades. Okay, I have it. It's like, cool, I'm cool, I'm good. Now what? What are you gonna do now? And you can keep on like gaining more for yourself and gaining popularity and putting yourself out there more and more and more, which, like, yeah, that's cool. But at the same time, I wanted to do something that's good for my soul. I wanted to do something that is not just for me, but something that hopefully builds a legacy of new people. Because I remember when I just started in the industry 14 years ago, and we did like these small events in Holland called First Look. And I remember this during like install, and there was this guy who worked for Nintendo, and he was the only black person that I saw in the industry for years. And I mean, not that I knew everyone in the industry, but it was just every year that I saw him, I was like, hey dude, how you doing? What how's life? How are the kids? And it's getting better, yeah, for sure. And I'm very happy to see that, and it's amazing. But still, it's like I want to see more of us, and I think in general, it's not only more of Black folks, it's more Latin folks, Asian folks, women in video games. We need to see more diversity, because the thing is, and I bring it back to that conversation or that point that I made earlier, is like we're planting a seed, and it might not be short-term play. It might not be something that will benefit you right now, and also for the people watching, you need to be patient. As long as you're building, as long as you're growing, you're going somewhere. And that's the thing, like, be patient with it. And I hope that what we're doing here is hopefully planting seeds to show you all these different entry points into the industry. We're giving you the cheat code here: up, up, down, down, left, left. Do your thing. Now it's on you.
Yeah, and like planting the seed, I think, is so important. So a quick story from me. So Ubisoft Toronto, I'm a part of the Ubisoft Gaming League, and we host different tournaments throughout the year for the whole studio. And we had an opportunity to host a tournament at a community down the street called Pelham Park. And these kids are anywhere between 8 years old to about, let's say, 12 for argument's sake. So while hosting the event, most of the people that are in the UGL are people of color. And these kids are coming up to me saying, "Hey, you make games? I didn't know there's Black people who make games." And that like touched my soul when he said that, when the kid said that, because growing up, I didn't know anything about how to get into the industry until I went to college when I was 18, 19. So if we're able to spread the knowledge and give the education of, hey guys, it's possible, here's how to do it, here's how to talk to people, I would love to see more people like us in the industry, because like everyone's been touching on today, unfortunately it's few and far between. So hopefully that people that are listening today are able to, again, build community, and we're able to blow this out of the water. I think that is something that I want to accomplish with this whole initiative.
Facts.
And in that, I have a last question here for Stanley. What's your message for young Black professionals or students who might want to do what you do?
I first want to make a quick comment on a little bit of what we heard on this panel, because I think it's really special and meaningful. I think to Lyisha's point about you've got to be your own advocate, that's critically important, right? You've got to have that self-confidence, which is sometimes the hardest thing to do. I remember sometimes getting ready for presentations or things, and you're sitting there like, I'm going to practice in front of myself and kind of see who I am. I think that's critically important. I also think, to Leon's point about this being his proudest accomplishment, I think what's special about that is that what he's done is taken his platform and his personal passion and desire, and he's routed it in a way that's really unique, right? Because there are lots of ways to go about trying to get a massive corporation to support something like this, right? Even if they say all the right things, how do you get them to put this together? And just behind the scenes, so you guys know, we're doing this thing on Teams, which is excellent. There's a whole team at Ubisoft making sure we come on and off, sending us notes if you're coming, if you're going too long. I mean, this is a production, right? This isn't just, Leon said, let's get together. It's Leon saying, hey, Ubisoft, you need to support this, and this is critical. And them going, okay, let's do it. And them putting a team behind this, promoting it, getting it to Forbes. So that's using your platform in a really smart, targeted way and leveraging it so that we get the benefit and can move forward. And I think that really leverages what I think is important, which is, yes, being Black means you're going to be scrutinized more and have to fight harder for your opportunities, but it also means you're part of a relay team, right? And you're grabbing a baton, you're running your race, and you're passing the baton to the next person or people to make sure that you help them. And those people may be Black, they may be women, they may not be from an underrepresented group, but you're doing your job to make sure that you are helping as many people get through who are gonna benefit this whole endeavor and this whole opportunity that we have for us. So that's what makes me excited about being part of this today, but also seeing all the stories that everyone is sharing about how they want to contribute to getting more people and more voices into this industry and participating in creating the magic that is the video game industry.
Yeah, and I think that too, like everyone here, we have the same goal of, we would love to see more young Black people, more Black people in general in the industry. Like I said off the top, it's not an impossibility. We just need to make sure we do the right things to make this happen. So yeah, so like I said before, so the last question for you, Stanley, what would be your message to young Black professionals and students who want to do what you do?
If they want to do what I do, you first of all, you're going to have to grind the way that everyone has been talking about it. There are a lot of sleepless nights in getting yourself through your educational experiences, through the work experience. You heard about people talking about multiple jobs and side hustles. All those things matter and help build your character. So, but those are things no one else gets to see except your really close family and friends, only the people intimate to you. But number one, you have to do those things. There's just no way around it, right? That's the 10,000 hours. I think the other thing is you have to make use of those opportunities. And sometimes that means, taking something that might be less prestigious or even less money to position yourself for a bigger opportunity because it makes you feel fulfilled and like you're going down that path. And then I think it's being strategic and figuring out when that opportunity comes in, what do you do? So for me, I'm the CEO of a U.S. trade association. That's not something that people grow up in saying, hey, I want to be CEO of a trade association, right? It's an opportunity that comes up because a lot of things come together at the right time. And I came in it through the law, and I came in it because I was passionate about intellectual property, protecting rights. I had a wonderful experience with a group called the Recording Industry Association of America, RIAA. We worked on behalf of the U.S. record labels, and we were bringing a bunch of cases. You may have heard of some of them. We brought cases against Napster and Aimster and MP3.com. That was us doing all those cases. And along the way, I had a colleague named Dean Garfield, who was amazing and did really, really good work. And he left for the Motion Picture Association, African American. So he's at MPAA, I'm at RAAA. We're both working on a litigation that we're joined on against a company called Grokster. And they were stealing movies and music. And that case ended up in the Supreme Court, and we won 9-0. But what would happen is everybody wanted to participate in the legal discussions. Very important people at the companies. There'd be 50 people on a conference call. So much so that the lawyers who are going to argue the case at the end of the day and after the end of these calls would call Dean and I to have conversations about what are the inputs that we need to do. And I didn't really think about it because we were just grinding away and doing our work. But at some point I realized like these high-powered lawyers who are going to argue for us before the Supreme Court are relying on two black guys to give them the skinny on where they should focus, right? And then it hit me, and then I kind of like left it because I was not sleeping. There was a year where I literally had 3 days off, including weekends. I literally had 3 days off, just grinding. So the case ends, we went 9-0, and then Billboard magazine does an article on the case. And Billboard is, the premier, at least at that time, the premier music industry magazine. And there's a picture of me and Dean about the people who led the effort for the music industry in this Supreme Court win. I was like, wow, right? And that just doesn't happen. And it's hard to replicate those things, but when you have those moments and opportunities, you just drive them. Right now, by the way, Dean is the head of global policy at Netflix, so he's in Holland.
Thank you so much, Stanley. So again, continuous conversation about you gotta grind, you gotta want it, you gotta just do it. No excuses, right? So got some questions from the Q&A here. Feel free to jump in if you feel that you can answer this question. How did you all deal with discouraging interactions while attempting to network?
Okay, can you repeat that question, Kurston?
Yeah, no problem. How did you all deal with discouraging interactions while attempting to network?
If I may jump on that real quick, I think it's experience. It's at a certain point in time, especially when you're younger, you really care a lot about what other people think about you because you need the validation in order to move forward. So you have the tendency to approach your networking in the sense of you want something from them. At a certain point in time, once you get more comfortable in your skin, or at least in my case, it's like these kind of interactions become more organic because you don't really think about it. It just happens. Like, okay, yeah, you do cool shit, I do cool shit, let's have a conversation. And it's more like, instead of being like, oh my God, this is a god, it's a god. It's like, no, you're talking like you're talking to peers. And I mean, I remember when I met Stan, for example, last year. Even then, it's like he was the CEO of the ESA, the organization that was behind E3, and I was just this Dutch guy doing events for Ubisoft. So when but it's true though, because when I met him, was like, I was honored, like, dude, a black guy in this high of a position in video games. I was like, massive respect. So it still happened. It's still a current thing. But that's a certain point in time you're comfortable with feeling that way, and you approach it like that. Yeah, sure, cool. Yes, I have respect for all of you guys here. Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Let me just tell you guys, if you guys ever have an opportunity to go to a party thrown by Leon, you'll just be like, if you have not been to an event that he throws,
thank you so much.
It is sick. It is just sick.
I remember we actually have a picture of you, Stan, from last year's party where you're in the background like, oh, amazing picture, by the way.
One thing about networking, I used to try to get to know everyone in the room. I would remember everybody's name. I was just a beast. And it hit me that I got to know a lot of people, but I didn't really know them. And I transitioned into settling in on one or two good conversations. And that's like my thing now is if I'm in a good groove, I'm just settling in and just working that in. And that's because then you're forming that deep relationship. And so if I have the negative interaction, I just pivot. I just roll. Like I have limited amount of time. And that was, that's been for a few years. But I just think the more deeply you get to know folks, the better that relationship's going to be.
Totally. And I think on that one, we have to transition into our next speaker. You've already seen her a few times now, Lyisha, native San Francisco Bay Area, currently the event manager of logistics at Sony Interactive Entertainment. Over the past 17 years, Lyisha has taken her experience in marketing, public affairs, and events, and crossed several industries from advertising to nonprofit to energy utility to the gaming industry. Lyisha has a master and is a master as well. She's a master in public administration from Cal State Hayward and is a proud HBCU alumni of the Dillard University, where she obtained her BA in mass communications. She's an active member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Inc. and enjoys spending time with her family, friends, and is always planning something, be it virtual or physical, for personal or work. And to conclude with a quote, and then she's going to take it from there. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. A Maya Angelou quote. So Lyisha, the stage is yours.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh my goodness. I don't know about anybody else in the place, in the room, but what a morning we are having. Thank you to Leon, to the amazing team at Ubisoft for putting this together. I've said it before on the panels. I will say it again, 4 words that is true to me. I am not a gamer. Yep. Those were the words that I spoke to my former manager when she offered me the position at PlayStation 6 years ago. I said to her with all transparency and confidence in my voice, I'm an event planner. I'm not a gamer. I say it that way because to me, it always reminds me of the movie Sister Act 2, when Whoopi Goldberg says to Lauryn Hill, if you wake up in the morning and all you think about is singing, then baby, you are a singer. So for me, when I get a new project, when I get a new program, all I think about are the logistics of that event. How does it make the people feel? Did the outcome of their attendance warrant the money the company spent, the money they spent? Was it worth the time they gave up? Did what we have planned give us the return on investment? The confidence of knowing what I am and what I am not takes a minute. And for me, it was such a humbling and hard experience as far as it comes to my career. So when I started out in advertising, I always seemed to manage to incorporate event logistics into my daily role. Even as a senior account executive that worked on the Visa account back in the day, I took those fundamentals of marketing and advertising, working at the agency where everything is on a deadline, the processes, helping to drive my direction and my career, and also letting me know the importance of logistics. Realizing that understanding processes and communications has really become a blueprint for how I move throughout my career. It was through this that I made the pivot from corporate America to nonprofit. It was also during this time that I really went back to school to get my master's in public administration. Unbeknownst to me, that pivotal move helped me to understand my purpose, because I then became the marketing and community affairs manager at Chabot Space and Science Center in Oakland, California, where I went from my traditional marketing and advertising to now writing marketing plans for educational events, sales sheets for facility rentals, writing copy for commercials, buying media, writing copy for that media, and also creating community partnerships and connections with local businesses like Fenton's Ice Cream in Oakland, as well as working with the Oakland Raiders. I learned then that it was important to find the connection in between things. I really realized that relationship building, communications, and being able to articulate how people benefit working as a team is more powerful than trying to be on an island, trying to run things alone. Then when I looked at it with all those hats and all those responsibilities, and even having a nice team of 7 reporting into me, I took a moment to reflect. And it's really important, and I really learned, and I still stand by this, we all should stop throughout our careers and take a moment to reflect. What about you in your current position brings you joy? And what else do you enjoy most about your job? Again, another humbling experience, because sometimes what you think brings joy isn't what you are the best at, but that sometimes can be the thing that you work the hardest at because you enjoy it. It was in this moment I found my perspective, which landed me the position at PlayStation, as I really wanted to focus fully on corporate events. Even prior to PlayStation, I've come to realize this was all a setup. It was all a setup. All the learning, all the years, all the no's was all a setup for this moment. Because I've realized that the processes I learned in advertising, the relationship and the juggling a million things at Chabot was all a setup for where I am now. My time at PlayStation has shown me that pivoting and identifying my purpose was all intentional to getting me to where I am now. I have had the pleasure of running event logistics for some of PlayStation's biggest conferences, managing upwards of 200 plus on-site staff, negotiating contracts with some of the biggest hotel brands. But the thing that gives me the most joy about what I do is empowering and trusting the staff and vendors I work with to all be moving in the same direction. So yeah, I'll still say it again. I'm not a gamer. I'm not. And I know people that are on here are laughing because they know me. But what I am is I'm very passionate about logistics and processes and relationship building. And I bring that energy and spunk with me wherever I go, whatever industry I am in. So I've come to realize during this pandemic, during what is now the year of 2020, I'm not just trying to break the glass ceiling anymore. It's bigger than that to me. I am trying to touch the universe. So I say to everybody here, do not let the current climate convince you that you've reached the ceiling. You simply need to reach higher and try to touch the universe. Pivoting makes the moves necessary to find your purpose so that during the journey to it, you don't lose sight of your perspective. Always remember to help someone else along the way. The universe is big enough to take someone with you. Just make sure you leave the tools on how to get there. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Lyisha. Every time you talk, I'm just learning so much. It's insane. I can hear you speak all day. Thank you so much.
Such an honor. Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move on to our next keynote speaker. So our next keynote speaker is going to be Moustapha N'Dome. So Moustapha, aka Moose, aka Ubi Moose, has been working at Ubisoft for more than 7 years now. Better known by the Just Dance community, as he was a community developer for the brand for about 5 years. And he's happy to share his experience and his relationship with the video games that have paved the way for him and in the industry as well. Moose, how are you doing today?
Thank you, Kurston. I'm good. I'm good. Better than when I actually got the news that I was going to talk in this event, because yeah, I was telling Leon the first time I was asked to talk in this event. I was like, yeah, it's gonna be good, like to share my story and talk to people about me. And then I was like, what am I going to talk about? I mean, because I'm just me. I haven't achieved anything special. So, who is going to be interested in anything I was going to say? And Leon can testify because he just told me, talk about your experience and tell your story. So here I am now, telling my story that I still think is not that crazy, but I do want you to stay until the end of the story. So here are some keywords that you're going to hear during my talk. The first one is Nintendo, the second one is community, and the third one is Beyonce. So the three elements are part of my journey, and those are things and one person, I think, helped me getting me where I'm today. So I was born in Paris in an African family. My parents are from Senegal. I'm the big brother of 8 siblings and one big sister. So that's a family of 10 kids. I grew up in France in an immigrant family, just like I said, but my childhood was not that much different from any other kids growing up in the 80s and 90s, at least regarding entertainment. My first console was the NES that I had to share with my brothers and sisters. So yeah, not a lot of playtime. Then I made my way through the years with the Super Nintendo, the Mega Drive, I think it's the Genesis in the US, I think. PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 5, Sega Saturn, Dreamcast, Nintendo 64, Xbox, as well as all the portable devices, Game Boy, Game Gear, Nintendo DS, etc. So I basically got my hands or owned every single console ever made, even rare things like the original PC engine, core graphics, or the Neo Geo and the Jaguar. So yeah, video games have been around me pretty much all my life, but I never thought that I never even considered working in a video game company because one, I suck at math, and to me, working in video games meant making them, which meant also pursuing school in computer science, which was impossible for me because, just like I said, I really suck at math. So, but I was good in French and writing, so one of my entry doors could be journalism. But even then, when I started studying journalism, I just wanted to write about anything I liked, dancing, music, anime, fashion, and why not video games. But still, I was getting my one of my first internships at Game One, which is a French TV channel about video game. I really loved my time there. And after that, I started working as a freelance journalist, writing about all the things that I love and that I just mentioned earlier. In the meantime, I took a mission in Frankfurt, Germany, where I worked for 2 months at Nintendo. That's keyword number one, as a localization tester, which was basically translating games and making sure every text appearing in the game was correct. And I'm pretty sure that this specific line on my resume helped landing that interview at Ubisoft. The interview that happened 6 years after this experience, so we are going to come back to that. Because I continued journalism after that, and after 3 years, I decided that I wanted to stop starving and have a more stable job. So I took the opportunity of working as a customer service and community manager in a small French tech company that was making little Facebook games and apps for TV boxes. That's the second line of my resume that helped me getting that job at Ubi because hashtag community managers, community, just like I said. But then I started, I spent still 3 years in that company, but I started getting bored at that job. That was not challenging enough, and I applied to a lot of company, and not only video games, actually, because I really wanted to leave that company to work as a community manager. That position that was so hype in the early 2010s, and to this day, when I try to think about it, I still don't know how my resume ended up on the top of the pile of other resumes at Ubisoft for the job of community developer for Just Dance. All I know is just that I got a call one day after a lot of unsuccessful interviews to work for this company that I knew and that made games that I played a lot. And I'm talking about Just Dance and Michael Jackson, The Experience. So not all the AAA hardcore games. Sorry for that. And I'll pass the details on the interview, but I think I'll just say that the job description said they were looking for someone who knew community management, who knew about dance, who was good at dancing, who knew video games, and was also good on camera. In short, they were looking for a unicorn. That's what I heard when I finally got the job, and so I was pretty confident in the first elements because I've been dancing hip hop for almost 20 years and I'm teaching now, but my experience on camera was very limited. So I'm guessing my impression of Beyonce, third keyword, on the videotaped interview was what helped me get this job. And yes, there is a video about that, and no, nobody will ever see it again, I hope. So here I was landing that job in a famous video game company, working for a game about my passion for dancing, doing something I love, which was, and I discovered that thanks to that job, actually, creating a connection with other people and being the face for a global brand, which as a Black person was a huge deal, especially for a brand like Just Dance that had this sort of image of a game that targeted 14-year-old girls. I think showing a Black person doing silly stuff on their official YouTube channel actually meant something to me, and for that I'm really grateful for the EMEA marketing teams and the production team of Just Dance, who I was working with at the time, who had no problem that the content that I was creating for the Just Dance community was shown on all their different platforms online. And I'm not sure that we've ever made an analysis about the impact of this video on the audience of the brand. But I like to think that seeing me and my wigs and dancing to Lady Gaga, I think it helped a few of these players, either male players or Black players or both, feeling represented because, and I think you've heard that a lot during all the different interactions today, representation does matter, and especially today that we are having all these conversations. At the time, the idea was not a big deal for my management and even to me, but I realize now that it was a quite groundbreaking. Really grateful for this opportunity to inspire members. So after 5 years of Just Dancing around the globe, meeting fans of Just Dance all around the world at E3, Gamescom, Paris Games Week, Brazil Games Show, I decided to remove the colorful wigs and outfits for another opportunity within Ubisoft. Internal communications manager, that the job that I'm doing right now. So now this is my job. I'm leading a team of 3 to do amazing things for the Ubisoft employees at HQ. I think I won't go too much into details of my daily tasks because I don't want this to get really boring. But I'm still happy to say that I love my team and my job today. I love working for Ubisoft, and I don't think I'm leaving anytime soon. So as a conclusion, if I had to answer the question, how did you get into the video game industry? I would say, and I think everybody said that, just be yourself. So I just hope my little talk convinced some people, also everybody watching, that even if you make an impression of Beyonce during your job interview, you can still make it if you're just true to what you believe in and true to yourself. And that's it for the cheesy moral, but that everybody agreed on me with that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Moose.
Much appreciated.
I'm just going to be straight up with you. I'm going to find that video. I hope you know this.
No, you won't. I will make sure that it's destroyed. And that
we're going to use that for the next mixer. That will happen for the next mixer. We'll show Moose's video, how we got the job at Ubisoft. But we need to transition into the next. We need to transition into the next speaker, Annabel Ashalley-Anthony from Melanin Gamers UK. a community or a gaming community that promotes diversity and inclusivity in the video game industry. I met up with her after, I think it was either the E3 or the Toronto edition of the Black Game Pros Mixer, as she was very interested in writing a piece on her blog about what we're doing. Then I found out more about all the good causes that they're supporting, and we wanted to offer her the stage here. So, Annabel, if you're ready, the stage is yours.
Yes, I'm ready. Can you guys see and hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. I just want to say thank you so much, Leon, for this opportunity, so much, and everyone at Ubisoft. And all the speakers have been amazing. I've just been like, oh my God, this is phenomenal. I'm really, really honored to be part of this panel. Honestly, I am. My name is Annabel. I'm Annabel Ashalley-Anthony. I'm a writer, a gamer, a rollerblader, and an avid film buff. I'm also a sickle cell warrior. I'm the founder of Melanin Gamers. So Melanin Gamers is a gaming community that promotes inclusion and diversity in the video games industry, with a special focus on content creators, whilst also providing a safe space for people of color to come together and game. In terms of the idea for MG, I've always wanted to do something when it comes in terms of diversity and inclusion, but I think the simplest answer for that question is the fact that I'm an advocate. Now, an advocate is defined as someone who provides support when others need it, not just any support, public support, support that is genuine and authentic, passionate and vocal. I am an advocate. I'm, amongst other things, a gamer, and as a Black woman, the story unfortunately does not begin and end with that statement. The gaming industry has been something I both love and hate just because of this reason. It's why I created Melanin Gamers, not just as a show of support or as a cry for some desperately needed change, but more importantly as a safe space, an online and in real life community for people of color to come together and feel represented. Gaming is very important to me. It changed my life. I would go as far as to say it saved my life. I have sickle cell anemia, and most of my childhood was spent in and out of hospital. So gaming and reading was something that sort of helped. So was like a lifeline for me, you know, just something to escape, also to connect with people as well. But for me, the proverbial needle that broke the camel's back in regards to starting up MG is a story that I tell people all the time, when I was just like, after this situation happened, I was like, nope, I've got to do something. And so that was what happened to my brother, Alan. He was part of a team. He plays this game called Overwatch. I think everyone kind of knows what Overwatch is. So he was set to make Grandmaster on Overwatch, which is sort of like the creme de la creme. It's winning the UEFA Cup. It's winning the championship in F1. It is just, you want to be Grandmaster. And a member of his own team was being racially abusive towards him. And this was happening throughout, like they were climbing the ranks. And I knew about it, and I was like, oh, you should tell them, you should do something. We both didn't know what to do. One day my sister walked in and she heard this and she was like, what the hell is this? And she said, pause the game. Now, from when she said pause the game, you know she knows absolutely zero about online gaming. It's a live game. Of course you can't pause the game, but she was like, what's happening? Talk to them, do something. And so she told the guy, she was like, she told my brother to tell the guy, do something about this. Talk to the rest of your teammates. How are they allowing him to speak to you? Because he's on your team, so why isn't he supporting you? And well, they didn't really. The help of the rest of the team was really lackluster, and the guy continued. So she went to tell our parents, and they banned my brother from gaming for 3 months. And so no, he did not make Grandmaster, and he hasn't made Grandmaster since. And so he said to me, who wins if I stop gaming? And like those words really sort of, they rattled me. They really, really sort of stuck with me. But actually, it wasn't until my other brother, so my little brother, my littlest brother, Adam, he was in primary school. I think that's like elementary school for you guys. So he was about like 9-ish, and he witnessed this. He was getting bullied at school, and he didn't say anything because he saw Alan get punished for being bullied. So when he was getting bullied, in real life, he was just like, he kept it to himself because he was like, well, something's going to happen to me for being bullied. Somehow he thought in his mind that it was his fault that he was being bullied because of what happened to Alan. And I was like, oh my gosh, something that's happening in gaming is having real world consequences to like how Adam thinks. He thinks that the victim is somehow to blame and that they should change themselves, you know, and that happens in gaming. We should mute our mics. We should do something. The victim is always having to bend over backwards or do something else. Like, I sometimes, as a woman, I don't put my mic on, because if they hear my voice, they're like, oh my God, you're a girl gaming. I'm like, yeah, okay. So we have to do so many things just because other people are affecting us. And I thought, this can't go on any longer. I can't sit back and do nothing. And I was just like, I have to act. So that's kind of why I started Melanin Gamers. In our current situation these times that we're living in, so many people are reaching to gaming as a distraction, and gamers around the world already know how important gaming is to, like, just distract you or just entertain you. And so the gaming industry is something I love, and it's important to me and everyone at MG to protect this and ensure that what we love reflects the people who are part of it. We're not calling for needless tokenism, but a real, like, sort of shift in the tide from the grassroots to the very top. I'm grateful for the team behind MG, so thankfully I don't have to do MG all by myself. So there is my brother Alan from the Overwatch story, who's our principal researcher for MG, and he's his actual job, he's an assistant legal engineer, and he's brought his knowledge from his work to Melanin Gamers. So when we're doing contracts with illustrators, all of that sort of thing, he is responsible for that. He fact checks when we do panel talks. He fact checks everything so that we can give our opinions, but also we back it up with facts, which is very important to me. We have Lora, who has a background in social enterprise. She's Melanin Gamers' digital marketing lead. She provides general business guidance and things like that. Donovan, our digital producer, and the MG website revamp. I mean, I have very little skills when it comes to designing a website. So he revamped the whole website. It looks amazing. And all our social posts is all him. Our illustrator extraordinaire, Koye, who is responsible for all our logos. So I'm really, really grateful for all the team behind Melanin Gamers. And obviously what's unique about MG is the involvement of our community. So our community is very, very heavily involved. It's run by us, for us, which is something I absolutely love about MG. And I'm glad that we're being the change we want to see, basically. We're all invested in the idea of just changing the industry and really doing something. And our approach to increasing diversity in the industry is threefold. So we do panel talks at different gaming conventions around London, because that's where the team is based. We're based in London. And so that's our first branch. Our second branch is our tournaments, where people can come together and socialize and game. And we have a kind of a sub gaming tournaments, panel talks, game talks, a sub branch, which is when we speak at schools and colleges. So that's sixth forms as well. Sixth forms is between like 16 and 18. That's the sixth form in London. And we're really, really, these times are crucial for us when we speak at those sixth forms and colleges, because we also get to engage with the parents and guardians of these youths because especially when it comes to people of color, because it's universally known that there are 4 careers: pastor, a lawyer, a doctor, and an engineer. Anything else and you've basically failed in life. So don't go home to your parents unless you're one of those 4 careers. Gaming? No. That's not even allowed. That's something you do on your free time. And when we even talk to them about gaming, they're like a coder or a YouTuber. And that's as much, that's the career that they think that gaming. And we're like, there's so many things when it comes to gaming. There's all of these things. And that age is very crucial to us when we get the 15 to 18-year-olds, because they're making life decisions, what to study at uni. And the idea that they only think that coding or being a YouTuber is all what gaming is involved in. And their parents think that too. So when we do these panels, we actually talk to the youth. They're like, actually, no, there's this many careers that are involved in gaming. And their parents are there to see that actually we're speaking on this panel. And we've had sort of parents come to us, which is the best times ever. They're just like, I didn't realize that there's Black people in these positions. There's these people. I'm just like, there are so many of us there. There could be more, because you get your son and daughter in learning, and then we can be in these spaces and we can create the changes that we want to see. We can be in those boardrooms. We can create these games. We can actually diversify the industry from the inside out. So it's very important for us to get the people from those ages and their parents in those rooms so that they know that actually a change can happen and my child can be successful in a gaming career, and a gaming career isn't just a YouTuber or a coder. Our third branch is our online presence, where we showcase industry insiders. We interview people like Leon The future is tech, and MG are going to show that's an inclusive future that's full of all races, all LGBTQI community, and all religions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Annabelle. And one thing I want to touch on as well, I think this is like a very common thing when people go, oh, I want to make games. All right, what do you want to do? Well, I want to make games. And people need to start understanding and learning that there is a plethora, a smorgasbord of different jobs that are available within the gaming industry.
Definitely.
So thank you so much for touching on that.
It's no problem.
Now we'll move on to our last panel here. So I'm going to bring back Stan, Dean, Junae, Leon, JP, and Melissa. Welcome back, friends.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you, sir.
Hey.
All right, so I'll jump up with the first question here. Dean, I'm going to throw this to you. What
Sure.
actions do companies develop console manufacturers and platforms take to make sure the industry is more inclusive?
It amazes me that the large companies are asking for a skilled workforce and are not leaning in to help educate this workforce. I'm excited about where Microsoft is going in this direction because not only, teaching STEM, but reimagining education. If anything that this pandemic has shown us is that we have to now create these new immersive experiences online or virtually, right? I mean, Teams is great. Believe me, I love it. I use it every day. Zoom is great. All these virtual capabilities that these tools have. But, people are not going to sit there for 30 minutes and fall in love with their professor, right? That's not going to happen. So we've got to look out beyond what we've created and take it to the next limit. But we're going to need investment from companies like Microsoft and other tech companies to come in and shore that up, because how are you going to have this expectation if you're not leaning in? I'm a firm believer that education needs to be reimagined. You hit on this topic earlier yourself. Not everyone has to go to college. I don't think college is for everyone. I'm a college graduate, but some people just do not fit into that mold. How can you take the industry certifications that we have created and then create curriculum in and around that? And still, the universities can teach that curriculum, right? We build these innovation hubs on these campuses, and they can lean into the community and help the community bring itself up as well. So it's not just, let's leave it to the schools to figure it out on their own. No, you're going to have to bring the government into this. You're going to have to bring the industry into this and come up with cohesive curriculum that leads to good outcomes.
That's a really good way of saying it, because I think people need to know that there's multiple paths, right? Like I mentioned before in my opening statement, there's no one straight way to get here. And like we've been talking all day, build up that network. Like that network is so important to your career and also your growth as well. So Stan, they're going to pitch you the same question. What do you think?
I'm going to leverage a little bit more of what Dean said, because I think that really is critical. Investing in the future means investing in people, particularly where you need that talent set. One of the things I would say is that companies are driven by economic factors, period. In fact, in most countries, CEOs, their primary obligation, if they're publicly traded, is to their shareholders. And so more than anything else, they focus on what are the economics of what they're doing. So I think what they have to think about is what are the economic benefits of diversity and how do you account for that, right? Beyond the philanthropic point. And I think once they start to look at the ways that diversity help you economically, it makes more sense and makes the case easier for more investment. So that can be in education, and in particular with STEM. Everyone in the tech space and in the gaming space needs more coders, more engineers, more developers. If there's a shortage, you've got to pump up that supply, and you do that through education. And that could be by supporting those efforts financially. It might be by providing mentoring opportunities. And by the way, you now have a generation, a whole workforce of people who want to give back. And what better way than going to an after-school program and teaching a little bit of what you have once a week. You know, the modern employee wants to do that. And so you're able to increase the motivation of your workforce and increase people wanting to stay there because they're having an opportunity to do something beyond earning a paycheck. They're actually giving back, growing the next generation. I think it's also important in terms of increasing storytelling, right? You're going to have a diverse audience. You need diverse stories. You need diverse storylines. And again, that's an important investment. And if companies associate their brands with that generosity, it actually builds their goodwill as a company. So I think as you look at increasing pipeline and investing in that next generation, it helps the bottom line. And I think if you make that case, that's what companies hear. And I think it makes a lot of sense from an economic standpoint.
Thank you, Stanley. What about you, Junae? Because you're in the esports realm as well as FGC as well. So what do you think on the matter?
I'm sorry, I was having camera trouble. Are you talking about the communities or what the companies are doing?
I'll just repeat the question for you. So
Okay.
what actions can companies, developers, console manufacturers, platforms take to make this industry more inclusive?
Oh, yeah, this is my favorite thing. So what they can do is hire us at the same rate that they hire people who are not Black. You know what I mean? Like, not lower the bar, but don't expect so much out of us if you are not asking for so much out of everyone else. So you just have to pretty much include us through and through. You know, if I only have about 50 or so followers of what you're looking for, and you're like, nah, man, she got to do better. But, you know, you have this white person who is like, has the same amount of followers, and you're like, oh yeah, no, like that's okay. Let's not do that. Let's make it easier to include us. Like, I think that we should all go back to when we were watching the Magic School Bus and Captain Planet. Look around the room and make sure you have one of each. Like that should be your checklist to make sure that you are being inclusive of every and anybody.
Yeah, I love that a lot. So I'm actually going to start the second question with you, Junae, because it kind of connects as well. So the question is, what about communities? What can gamers and people who follow this industry do to move it forward?
We can start by remembering that people are people. We can start by setting those respect boundaries. We can start by wanting to learn about other people's culture, pretty much, right? Like, learning about people's culture inherently makes you tolerant. And so we can just start by tolerating people for as they are. And for myself, I know that, like, I always speak about Black women first. So when The Little Mermaid came out, like, I was really excited. But like, I also want to see, you know, persons with disabilities in Disney movies, right? I also want to see all types of Asians in Disney movies, like any movies that we're talking about, right? So I think it's fighting multiple fights at one time, you know, not every fight, but one to five, you know, pick your fight.
I like that. Pick your poison, pick your fight, and then from there start to grow it.
Yeah.
All right, JP, what about you?
Yes, I think the community is really growing in terms of being aware of what voices need to be heard more. I was just talking to a colleague of mine about the necessity of events like this, for example, and my response was, and actually going back to Leon's point about having a colleague that's diverse and you can see and kind of relate to is really important. So I guess from a community standpoint, it's more of how could we bridge a lot of those people and actually get closer to them. And that's why I want to thank Leon for organizing things, because actually it got us to meet different type of people within Ubisoft and then outside of Ubisoft and create those links, build that community, and even people that are outside of, being, the POCs or whatsoever, being really able to link with more people. I think what I've seen and learned about management as well is that, our parents come from a generation where, the top level is to get an MBA or go to law school, and I think that today we need to study more social science. We need to study more, anthropology, stuff that make us understand why we, psychiatry, things that make us more, have more empathy and be more linked to people that are diverse, that are different than us. And when you switch your position in terms of like, how does that person feel and how does that person see the world, then you'd be able to really take actions that are not linked to your group, to how, your group is saying, So, I would say actions that need to be taken is study differently society and being able to, have a different, different mindset and different vision of the world. And then secondly, it's really, just show up your hand and be, hey, can we talk? Can we exchange? Can you give us information that I don't have? I've been reading a lot. I've been reading about Simone de Beauvoir, for example, about feminism. That got me more into, hey, how do females feel? What is the history behind that? What is their position in society, And you got to do that for a lot of different things. So I think as a community in the gaming industry, we need to understand, how do we get to this really bro-y, kind of vision of the, of the world and of things, we need to understand, where does that come from? And then I think we'll be better telling different stories and tell them better because we listen to people that are different, and then we could actually have better games and better storytelling. Yeah.
Love that answer a lot. So Dan, I would really love to hear your opinion on this.
Well, yeah, well, I think the gaming industry, just the industry in general, needs to sort of adjust its mindset. I grew up in the Bronx. I had, like I said, I had to start, like, I really worked my way into where I am right now. It took me a long time because the qualifications that the industry set were against me from the beginning. So you have these, like, these job listings that are requiring like 15 years experience in the gaming industry for a, I'm exaggerating, but for like a coordinator position. And you're just like, well, are you kidding me? Like, that's impossible. I'm obviously exaggerating. It takes longer. It's not 15 years. But like, I think we really need to sort of adjust what our requirements are when it comes to the gaming industry. Sort of look at how, some of these job listings prevent or, sort of disproportionately affect women and people of color, because we are expecting, sometimes women take time off to have babies or to pursue something else, and then they come back in the industry and you have and it's very, very difficult for them to insert themselves back in, which is happening to many of my women friends right now. You also have, there wasn't any gaming schools when I was growing up. I didn't have the opportunity to go to a gaming school. So automatically, because I didn't have AAA, experience, that automatically, removed me from the majority of the job postings that I was applying to. So all I'm saying is that the gaming industry really needs to take a look at how it is disproportionately affecting women and people of color, because a lot of the times we don't have access to these things. Yes, we can claw our way to where we are right now, but we really need to look at like other types of experience. What does the experience that you do outside of gaming that doesn't apply to gaming, how does that affect and how does that apply to the job that you're doing? Obviously, a programmer needs to do their thing. But if I'm a programmer who used to program, medical programs, I don't know, I'm making shit up, but like, then that I should pretty much have the opportunity to, decide, hey, I want to be in gaming, and then not have, because I don't have a AAA or a AA game on my belt, that shouldn't automatically, remove me from the list. So I just think that the gaming industry really needs to adjust how it views and how it accepts people. And lists need to be way more accepting. It's very, very difficult. And I say this and I'm probably going on too long, but I'm saying is that it's very, very difficult as me, who's inside, trying to get my friends slash the people that I know who are really damn good into this industry because they are not allowed. That literally they get rejected because they don't have, you know, these ridiculous requirements that some of these recruiters are saying. So I can go on, but I just think that we just really need to sort of adjust how we recruit and who we allow to the table. That's it. Thanks.
Yeah, it's very important because transferable skills are, I think they need to be looked at, and that should be part of the application process. Because I have people who work in this studio, people who work at different studios across the world who didn't go to school for gaming, but they have a strong background, let's say, in retail, whether it's retail sales or retail on the corporate level, but those transferable skills they had allow them to do the job they do today. So looking at that, kind of assessing the application process needs to be adjusted, most definitely. I'm actually going to start off the last question with Melissa.
Exactly.
So Melissa, what do you hope will change in the industry following recent conversations we've seen about race and inclusivity?
I mean, it is a difficult question, and it does take some time to think about it. Yes, for sure. I think Melissa might have some issues with her microphone.
All right, Leon, why don't you answer first then?
No. I think I would like to hear Dean's vision on this one.
Let's do it.
Okay. When I look at this, I look at it through two sets of lens. I always look at it from the startup world, you know, where I can make the most impact. And what I would love to see is a support model that takes a startup, right, from ideation, from just creating, and then, okay, now you're ready to look at a customer. Now you're looking for market entry. How can we put the mechanisms in place to help solidify that whole ecosystem, right? Because that's the challenge out here today, what I see. You know, you don't have people who are motivated because they don't see a path forward. And that's like one of the biggest challenges. And then, you know, I'm going to keep going back to this from an education perspective. We need to get young students, I mean, from K through all the way up to college, interested and excited about this industry because we're on the outside looking in. And you guys made it pretty clear about what you're doing there at Ubisoft, but where is this talent going to come from, right? And if we're not focused on reimagining education and changing the outcomes, none of this gets fixed, right? So how do we challenge these corporations? How do we challenge these school systems? And then how do we as industry partners lean in and help with curriculum? Because I think, I mean, I have a lot of friends who are teachers at all levels. I sit on the technology board at my alma mater. So I know these professors are challenged and these executives within these school systems are challenged. But how do we provide the help that is needed to move all of this stuff in a positive direction? Because we keep, you know, I always say the very definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome, right? No, we can't do that. This is the time to change. This pandemic has shown us this is the time to change stuff, right? That does not work, that is outdated and needs to just disappear. And we need to just come up with new concepts on how we entice people to be a part of this industry. Because this industry, I mean, you guys alluded to this earlier around gamification. You know, I love, if you look at my signature, if you get my email signature, I've got a lot of little badges on there. I'm proud of those badges because I achieved something, right? I actually took some tests and achieved an actual certification to get those. So I'm proud of them. And it allows me to stick my chest out a little bit and say, hey, yeah, I'm my own cheerleader. Here's my signature. I did something. and I love that. And as we're looking for ways to create more, like I said, better immersive experiences for people, right? Not just kids, but for people in general, because we have to figure out, how to take people off the front line. Not the doctors and the nurses and the police officers. Those are not the ones I'm talking about. It's the ones who are making $15 an hour, and we're sticking them out because we, the guys who are making the really, really good salary, are having to put these people back to work so we can be serviced. There's a lot of inequity in that statement, but I'm glad that we have had this time. Leon, thank you for the platform, my brother. This is great stuff.
You're very welcome, good sir. And I think we can go over to some questions. I saw a question on the Discord talking about the experience and like the gate of like having like you need to have 6 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years experience in order to get a job in video games. I can share a story on that one. Quick anecdote. When I applied for the job 14 years ago for brand manager at Ubisoft Benelux, they were asking for someone with 6 years of marketing experience and a marketing degree. I had neither. I'm here now. It's like, I think it's just a way to have companies check if you really want the job. And it shouldn't deter you from applying. If you're really passionate about it, if you think you can contribute, you can.
And also, I wanted to share something. If we have a couple of minutes, I just had the experience of actually knowing someone in the recruiting field, in Berlin, and we talked a lot about interviews and cover letters and how you and I've had experience seeing him talking to candidates that, for example, would not show interest in the company they're applying to, saying, I've just applied, just like this, or just people saying, hey, whatever job I get, I'll take it, and I think touching back on what I said before about touching points and how to get in, you need to find, something that really interests you in the company that you like, and kind of finding those points. And if you're passionate about that, I think that, for example, writing a cover letter, or for example, doing an interview, that will help you really being able to talk about that passion and share it, And I came into the interview and was able to talk about my experience in the movie industry, not even in the gaming industry. And I thought that they thought, oh yeah, he's passionate about that and he can bring this to us, And I think in a way you always have to think about, hey, why do I do this, and really, being able to link that, and that's going to be the most powerful thing that you will have throughout your career, your passion into whatever you want to do, and that's always going to help.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. Just pulling some questions here. Give me one moment. All right, so I have a pretty interesting question here, and Stanley, I kind of want to hear your opinion on this. So the question is, in 5+ years, I haven't seen a single POC application. I reach out to POC groups and communities I'm a part of for recreations, but what more can I do to get help from these resumes in the first place?
Can you expand on when you say the POC applications? I'm sorry, I just need a little bit more on that.
Yeah, so I think this person's asking about like person of color applications when it comes to different.
So they're saying they're not seeing the amount of candidates come through from their end. Is that what they're asking?
Yes, because they deal with people of color groups and communities, but they're not seeing these people go forward.
Got it. So I think that leads to a few things, and I think that's a great question. I think first of all, the investments that we talked about earlier, that Dean talked about in particular, that companies have to make towards education and also towards building the next pipeline, are what leads to getting more people through that pipeline, right? And so that means they've got to put all the weight of not just sponsoring and mentoring, but advertising those things and getting them through, right? And making sure people understand that those opportunities exist. And then I think it's also a matter of those of us who are in industry of using our platforms to ensure that we're able to leverage those, to use our connections to make sure people are applying, but also to use our voice so that if you're at a company and there are opportunities to increase the diverse slate for positions, that we do that, because that then puts it on people's radar. And I think that's something that we can do proactively, in addition to what we're expecting in terms of the corporate responsibility, that we put it on ourselves to make sure that we're able to connect those people. And I'm totally distracted right now looking at Dean put on his lens.
Dean is flexing. He's flexing.
Showing us all his toys.
Hey, I feel like a kid in a candy store working over here. You know, when you get to play with these toys, it's great, especially when you're working.
One of the benefits, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I would also like to hear Junae's take on this. Her camera's back up, it looks like.
Refresh my memory. What do you want me to say? Speaking of kids in candy stores,
Kurston, could you, the question.
Yeah, let me read back the question. So give me 1 second, I move the chat. Yeah, so the person's pretty much asking about people who apply, a person of color that applies for a job. They're not seeing them move forward in applications, and they're coming from different groups and communities. So what can we do to make sure the applications get put forward?
What can we do to make sure that people of color are applying, like Black people, Indigenous people, and people of color?
Yeah.
Perfect. So I think this is a great question, simply because when I found myself trying to make sure that kids who were younger than me knew about it, I ended up starting a coding program. Can I code? No, I cannot. But that's not the point. The point is that I could learn enough to give Black and brown kids the opportunity to understand that, they can code. And so that's what I actually wanted to end up doing. And it's just about telling them, hey, yes, you can. You can do that. So one, it has to start when they're younger, to let them know that these jobs are actually available. And then it goes on from there to let them know that there are various jobs. Hey, you do want to be in games. You want to design outfits. You want to be in front of the camera. Do you want production? Do you want audio? And letting people know that you don't just have to be good on the sticks, that there are multiple people. Mm-hmm. I think that is what can happen.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a good point.
I've done it well. Actually, so I want to bring Lyisha back into this. I want to ask her a question at the end of the last panel. So Lyisha, what would you hope to change in the industry following the recent conversation we've been talking about race and inclusivity?
That's a good question. What I would hope to change is I want to see more people like me. And I think for me, what I've realized, and I say this to say, is representation matters. And to reach somebody that's first starting off in their career to even somebody that's seasoned, when you sit at the table, like I'm a Leon. When I saw Stan, I was like, oh yes, that's how I felt. And I know he probably hears that from so many people, but representation matters. I remember walking through a conference hall, back when we had PlayStation Experience, and having these third-party staffers or brand ambassadors, and they being like, "You're the Black girl that does this, and you run this, and you do that," and they were like, "We never would have thought." And I think sometimes people have to see other people that look like them and something that they never thought we could do. Mm-hmm. That's what the light sets, the things go. Now you look at, not to be cliche, but you look at Ryan Coogler, you look at all of them. You had all these kids who saw something, and now everybody wants to go to Africa. Everybody wants to do this because they saw something. I could be a superhero. You have Raising Dion on Netflix. You have all these things because it never was something we thought we could see. But now, like I said before, even in my come up story, why not? The universe is ours. So why not see it and then take somebody with you? So I think for me, it's all about representation, every level.
Thank you so much, Lyisha. So JP, one for you. So let's say you have someone coming into the industry, or someone that wants to get into the industry, is very doubtful of their skill set. Let's say that they're a programmer, but they don't think they're up to snub with everybody else that would be their competition. What would you say to them?
I think that, you know, the most important thing when you're really not confident of, you know, what you do in the regular life or whatever your skill set is about mostly believing that just try, you know. One of the things that I think in all the stories that we had, it was, you know, something you know, sometimes things happen by, you know, synchronicity or, you know, by timing, and you never know when it's going to happen. I think that a lot of time we believe, hey, this is not, you know, this is the job I want to do, or this is the career I want to get into. And then you find yourself 5 years later thinking, yeah, I've never thought I was going to do that. So I think you can never think, hey, like, this is not for me, or I shouldn't do this. And I would tell you something. I couple weeks ago, I applied for this program it's for European, you know, people from 18 to 30 that want to get involved in the European Union, and it's organized by this big think tank. They do classes with big shot European, you know, players and, you know, people that work for European Union. You do travels. And I literally applied by receiving an email. I didn't even know how I got the email. I just applied. It was my last year. I'm 29, it's 30 max. And, you know, a couple weeks later, I'm at my place, and I just opened my emails like, hey, you got in. And I literally never thought, and for 2 weeks, I literally forgot about it and got the email that I got in. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to just see, you know, the ex, you know, commissioner of the European Union and travel in Brussels, Strasbourg. And I thought, yeah, maybe I just apply, you know, and come back to what we all talked about. Those are the stuff that, you know, looking back, I would say, you know, when I applied, I literally did my email. It took me an hour. I really wrote down what I was going to say about, you know, what I thought about European Union, and then literally sent it. Didn't overthink, didn't, you know, think, hey, am I good for this? This is my last year. I've nothing to lose. This could be nice, and this would be good for a political career. So I just sent it. And 2 weeks later, I got in. So I would say to that person, yeah, you lose nothing by just doing the best application that you can and send it. You know, don't overthink. Yeah, just send it and then go do your life. And when you get that email 2 weeks later or a month later, hey, you got in, you're like, wow, whoa, I forgot about it, you know? So yeah, usually it's those stuff. And actually, it's the same thing that happened with Ubisoft, because I didn't get the first round of resumes. And then they sent me an email later saying, hey, actually, you weren't in the first round, but we called you up later. So like I said, I talked to this guy, a programmer, do the best application, apply, don't overthink, and then you'll see what happens next. This is not your power. Let people do what they do, and you focus on you, apply, send. Do the best you can. Don't make grammatical mistakes in your application. Read it a couple times. And make sure it's the best that you can, and then go for it.
Yeah, I love that. So speaking of don't overthinking, it just reminds me of one of my favorite producers, Kenny Beats. He has this thing where he invites people over, they kick a freestyle, he produces it on the spot, and his whole thing is don't overthink shit. And I think that once we get into the mindset of like, oh, I don't think I can do this, or maybe I'm not good enough for this, we cloud ourselves, we kind of stunt our growth, and we can't do anything from that. I think if we are able to push forward and say, yes, I can do this, I will do this, putting it out there, we'll be able to succeed on a grander scale. So I want to bring in Annabel and Junae, if you're here. And one thing I was thinking about during this panel is that there are a lot of people out there who want to build a community, whether it is FGC or like competitive Halo. What would you say to these people that want to start something? Where do you start? How do you start?
I would say just start. Literally, I would say just start. If you overthink something, sometimes when people ask me why I did Melanin Gamers, you just did that. I'm just like, if I had thought about what I'm actually doing, I would have been intimidated, and I would have talked myself out of, oh my god, there's a problem that's so big you don't even know how to tackle it. But if you just dive in, you'll sort of like, you'll sink or you'll swim, and you usually will swim. And I think also networking is very crucial. Like I said, my brother works with me. When we do events, my mom caters the events. My sister helps me organize them. So I have like my friends, everyone is sort of very hands-on, and reach out to people. I'm really grateful for all the people who helped me along the journey of creating Melanin Gamers, you know. Nigel from My Matter was really helpful for when, like, how do I do events? How do I do this? Just ask questions. People are more willing to help you out than you actually realize. I would go to events like PSC and play, and there's just people there that just like, oh, what do you need help with? I can help you. That is, you don't realize how many people are actually willing to help you out there. You just have to ask. And with me, I can be quite reserved, quite shy, which is why I like gaming. It's just, you know, I can do that in my room by myself. So going to these like networking things, I was just like, okay, I just do like a countdown, 1, 2, 3, hey. And sometimes I think I'd scare people. In my head, I've been going, oh, this is what I want to say. This is what I want to say to you. And then I kind of like just like, so do you like, and then they start talking, and then it's a conversation. The first part is awkward because if you're me and you're an introvert, you're like nervous and you're scared, and you've been rehearsing what you're going to say for like 15 minutes. But just get out there, and once you're in those spaces, and someone might take mercy on you and just like, are you okay standing over there? Do you want a drink? And there's loads of people who did that to me when I was just like standing awkwardly in the corner, like, do I say something? People are willing to help you, so get out into these spaces, talk to people, and just ask. Literally just ask. It's what my sister always says to me, it's no until you ask. So if you haven't asked, it's already a no. You've basically rejected yourself, you know? So just ask. The worst they can just say is no. The best they can say is yes, and then your foot's in the door. So yeah, just literally just start. If you have an idea, just go for it. Just do it. That's what I would say to people.
I imagine Annabelle in the corner of like a bar, like without instructions, but just like trying to hype herself up.
I am that person in the corner of a room. I am that person, and it's difficult because I'm quite tall. So people will look at me like, what is that random girl doing? Was she invited to that? Yeah.
Well,
I go for the snack.
I love hearing introvert stories because I'm not an introvert. I will walk up to anybody and be like,
That's
hey,
my
you want to
sister.
be my friend?
Yeah.
You know,
That's
you
not
want to
me.
be my friend? You want to do this and find common interest. When I was going to UX design mixers and there wasn't like a lot of Black people, I would wear something interesting. And because I'm nerdy, I have a lot of things interesting. So one mixer, I wore my Ninja Turtle suspenders. And that's an icebreaker for people because people are looking for a job, trying to come up, and some people are there just to talk. And, you know, when I would go to these mixers, I would walk up to whoever the hiring manager was and be like, did you try the food? I like this or I didn't like this, because it's easier to go into like, this is what I am, you know, this is what I do and things like that. So starting a community is no different. Anytime I go to conventions, I always leave with like a new friend, at least one, because I'm like, hi, I'm Junae. Do you want to be my friend? Hi, you know, let's do this. Blah, blah,
You're
blah.
one of those people who would have taken pity on me and just like walked over and thought.
I've easily walked over and been like, hi, what are you doing? And you'd have been like, oh my God. So yeah, starting a community is finding something that you like and then sharing it with other people and not being afraid to be like, I like this and I like that. Because people will be supportive. And if they're not, they're just not a part of your community and you don't need to worry about those people.
That's true.
That's very true. And I just want to say, we're actually reaching the end of this mixer. And thank you to each and every one of you for spending your time today, sharing your stories. And not for nothing, this is an international event from me here in Canada, Holland, Sweden, France, the States. Like, we are everywhere. We are visible.
I'm actually in Berlin right now, so also Germany.
Oh, we're in Germany right now. Yeah, but I just want to end it by saying this. It's kind of like a quote I live by. So the quote is, charity starts at home. And essentially what that means is that we need to take care of ourselves before we reach out to others. And the Black Game Pro Initiative, I believe, is just that. I want to see more people like us in the industry. I want to see us grow. I want to see us prosper. And with networking and communicating with each other and getting into these communities and groups, we can do just that. Look at this group today. Before we planned everything, us getting together would have happened maybe eventually at events, but the fact that we came together and we made this happen, speaks volumes about what we can do on a greater scale. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for spending the time and sharing your stories today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Any last thoughts?
you.
Thanks,
And
everyone.
And thanks everyone for watching. If you want to carry on the conversation, we are on Discord. I think we're dropping the Discord link in the chats since we indeed didn't have time to answer all the questions because there were quite a few. We will be. I think all of us are on the Discord server. I'm not sure if all of us will have time to answer all the questions, but we'll go through them and we'll do our best. And once again, feel free to reach out to us. That's what we're here for. You have our names. It's very easy to LinkedIn. Connect.
Definitely.
All right, and with that, thank you all for joining the mixer. See you at the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Ciao. Thanks.